It's a big fee. I just know they didn't have anybody in the area to work on it.
How do we screen We got 1 minute yet. I thought she.
Friday after.
Do you have a roll call sheet? Yeah. Noble County Plan Commission regular session is being called to order. We'll take a roll call, Sarah.
Jeff Cunningham.
Here.
Randy Sexton.
Here.
Mary Weissong.
Here.
Ann Klein. Here. Glenn Lemon. Anita Hess.
Here.
Tom Griffiths.
Here.
Patty Gatman.
Here.
Sarah Reagan.
Here. Looks like we have a quorum with 8 members in attendance. We'll start off with elections for president of Plan Commission. Yep, we want nominations.
I'd like to put in a nomination for Randy Sexton, president.
I'll second that.
Any other motions, or do we want to close?
Make a motion to close nominations.
I'll second that.
Was that you, Tom?
Yep.
With a motion of a first and a second, do you want to do a roll call vote, or do you want to do a and a nay?
This is by acclamation.
Voice vote? Okay, we'll have a voice vote for Randy Sexton. Yay.
Yay.
Aye.
Any nays? With that being said, Randy will step into that role. We're gonna cross over this with you. There you go. We got a cheat sheet. We need to do vice president.
I will open nominations for vice president of the planning commission. Make a nomination of Jeff Cunningham for vice chair.
I'll second.
Any others? Motion to close the nominations? So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the nominations. Let's go with a voice vote for Jeff Cunningham to be vice president. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same.
Aye.
It wasn't
I think you were supposed to say nay. So you know what, it's too late.
It's too late.
You voiced it wrong and that's the one we're gonna say, go
Okay, we would like to thank everybody for being here this evening. We're going to work through the agenda as we have it listed on the screen, given to us by the staff. The first order of business will be the minutes. I hope that you reviewed them. They're the minutes for the December 18th Planning Commission meeting. Does anyone have any corrections? And at some point, we need to have a motion for approval after corrections are made.
I will move to accept the minutes as written.
Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as printed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Having heard none, the minutes for December 18th are approved.
Thank you.
Moving on to unfinished business, do we have any?
We do not.
Okay,
Oh, the unfinished business. Yes, we did have some. We did have this petition withdrawn. So for now, they're not going to present.
Okay, moving on to new business for this evening. We will be holding public hearing for the following items, one at a time. When we do this, we're going to have 20 minutes for those that are in favor, 20 minutes for those that are opposed. Each individual that wants to speak is asked to come up to the microphone, state your name for the record, and each individual will be given 2 minutes to speak. And that way, everybody has an opportunity to speak, and you're allowed to come up one time for each one of the items that we have for a public hearing.
Could I ask for clarity? Do we do 2 minutes and just let anybody speak, or 20 minutes as a whole and 2 minutes?
Because otherwise you're gonna do 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, that could be a while.
2 minutes per person,
That would be easier to track.
yes.
Okay,
The first item this evening is the Noble County Legislative Body initiated a proposal on December 16th of 2020 for the initiation of a moratorium by a vote of 2 to 1 for the Planning Commission to consider the following. Unified Development Ordinance, Article 3.04 and Article 9.10, a one-year moratorium for Articles 3.04 and Articles 9.10 regarding commercial solar overlay district. No application will be accepted during this time frame.
we did have a sign-in sheet, I'll grab it.
Yes, Tom?
I was trying to get your attention, Randy.
I'm sorry.
I would, as far as the, our agenda's laid out, I would like to put rezoning 5591 to the beginning of our meeting.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If everybody's okay with that, I'm perfectly fine with that because they may not want to stay for the rest of this. That is rezoning number 591, Weldon Bontrager, in accordance with the Town of Cromwell zoning ordinance, Articles 4 and 5, and the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 9.22, requesting a rezoning map adjustment to rezone 0.40 acres plus or minus from A, which is agricultural, to general business, GP, to entirely to GP, to address the existing inconsistent zoning on the parcel and to allow for the permitted use of GP district business use, food sales and service and or retail sales. Real estate is located in section 17 of Sparta Township, quadrant 200, parcel 041, common location known as 132 South Jefferson Street, Cromwell, Indiana. Final consideration by the Noble County Commissioners on January 27th at 10 a.m. at just down the hall from here. Would the petitioner for this please come to the table and state your name and address?
Brian Weber with Lakewood Surveying, representing Weldon Bontrager. Address is 4134 West, 100 South, Kimball, Indiana, 46760. Weldon Bontrager contacted me in regards to getting this rezoned. What I feel is a mapping issue that's going on in the area. After contacting Teresa, we come up with an idea to just rezone the entire area instead of trying to just do a portion of it. That is the primary purpose of this. They want to get the entirety of the property in a GB zoning classification so that they can put in a commercial grocery store in the area. As you can see from the GIS map up there, the back portion of it and the portion to the south of it has been mapped previously to the property lines that are currently configured out there. And the main purpose is to make sure that this property in its entirety is rezoned to GB. The site plan that I've included with this packet is a general basis of what they're looking to do. They're looking to get rid of the foundation that's there, get this property within compliance of the Cromwell zoning, and provide adequate parking and an adequate structure to provide a grocery store for the area. With that, I will entertain any questions the board might have.
Can I,
Okay, at this time, I'm a little bit remiss, a little rusty in this. I would like to ask the staff to provide their report for this, and then after that, I'll open it to any questions the board members have of Mr. Weber.
so according to your staff report, if you look at the Cromwell Comprehensive Plan, you did encourage the growth of business and commercial activities in harmony with anticipated population growth, community needs, and enhance the Cromwell economy, to recognize the need for broadening activity and service business support of growth retail business in Cromwell. The character and the current conditions is obviously had a grocery store on it at one point. It is at the far edge of town, located on State Road 5. The business use district allows for a small grocery store in this zoning district, and the conservation of property values. I think Cromwell would, this is my opinion, they would benefit from an additional business in that area. So this was perceived as responsible growth and development. Cromwell Town Hall did send a letter of approval. Please let this letter serve as support for the upcoming request to clean up the zoning and to switch the GB district. For Mr. Bontrager, the town of Cromwell is always in favor of the efforts that bring the amount of more business and amenities to our small town. From what we have heard from the future plans of the parcel, we are excited about the future of this parcel and look forward to working more with Mr. Bontrager. One of the things that's probably not real apparent on this image that I have for you, and I'll apologize, if you notice the very far tip of that triangle is zoned ag. The lower part of that triangle is zoned general business, and where that first X is on the top of that triangle has no zoning. So we did not charge Mr. Bontrager an entire fee. We felt that it was in his best interest to clean it up. We encouraged that to happen. Cromwell was supportive of that. The only fees that he paid was the legal notice and the letters that go out to the general public, which should not be the taxpayer's responsibility to pay for. So with that, I'm on page with Ryan. I think it's a smart thing to do for Cromwell. And he did submit a sufficient site plan. As you can tell on this image from 23, there was a small building there. I do believe the intention is to move it farther back. If you can look at some of the pictures that we took, Rachel's standing about where, a little bit farther on the top of that curve is where the concrete is for that building. So he's gonna move this farther off State Road 5, which I think is smart. A couple more images, if you go directly, farther south on State Road 5, it's an open field. And it is just on the edge of town. I actually had a landowner that a lot of you know, Mr. His name just left my head, Duck Farm. Lane Robbins stopped me wanting to know what we were doing in town, and he was excited to hear, so it is a support for the community, got it just with us being on site. There is the old foundation, which I think Mr. Bontrager did not think it was sufficient. So,
And while you're on that, I did the site visit, while you're on that, is this out here in front, is that asphalt or is that concrete? I really couldn't tell the difference.
gravel and then concrete for the structure.
Okay, cause they shoved the snow up on that when I was there and done my site visit.
I would say right around where that top curve is, you're getting close to the concrete.
Okay.
I kinda kicked around when I was in
There
there,
wasn't a lot of parking there.
in the past,
The last building that was there was a liquor store that burned down.
that's the one that burned down, okay.
Yeah, there was not a lot of parking, it was just sort of.
Swoop in and out, okay. His proposed plan will have to meet the development standards for the use that he's planning on doing. We'll work with him on how many parking spaces he has. Ryan, I think you have some in here, don't you?
I believe I have one more than adequate for the square footage there.
There you go.
I have a question.
Yep.
On the road frontage, is that gonna be just all in, all out, or is it gonna be designated, there'll be a coming in and a coming out? Cause years ago it had like a circle drive.
That's
And
an
we still
end-up
plan on
question.
doing a circle drive, there's 2 entrances there.
Okay.
We had not thought of that at this time.
But NDOT will approve what they
I
want.
was gonna say,
Right.
yeah,
NDOT will regulate how that happens.
okay. Cause people are starting to increase their speed once they're leaving.
Gotcha.
I drive that in the summertime.
They should have that.
You're
When I
not
want
one
a
of
grocery
those, are
store.
you? Yeah, it's closer.
Anything else, Ryan? Do we have anybody else that wants to speak in favor of this petition? Having heard none, thank you. Do we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? No one has come forward. At this point in time, I will have it open to any other questions, comments that the planning commission has. Mary, do you have any further comment, being very familiar with Cromwell?
I think it'd be something great for Cromwell, if that's, we can make it grow.
Teresa, can you go back to one of the first screens that's on the map that we don't have, the next one back? That one, where the GB is, does Mr. Bontrager own that now?
That's part of that ag field. And like I said, I think the zoning, I don't know if it's human error or if it was actually zoned that way intentionally in the past. I can't answer that.
Okay, I didn't know, with the way it was laid out there and the extra line there.
That yellow triangle is what we're cleaning up today.
Right, but I didn't know if he owned the chunk that looks like it's been mowed, that's already general business.
If we look at the aerial. I think it's just farm field.
Okay,
I think those telephone poles are probably a
The property
property
line.
marker, I would think close to that anyway. That was my estimation, because there was a couple I could point out.
yeah, I done my site visit, if you don't mind. There's good site visit. The only thing that I noticed when I went to pull out was those weeds kind of blocked you looking into town, but the posted speed limit is 30. Not that anybody drives 30 through there, but that's what it's posted. You got this other road coming in over here at the bottom left corner, but the people coming out should have the right of way, so I think this is a great thing. Let's clean this up and,
Yeah, that lower image is right in that intersection that you're talking about.
yeah, right here.
I can tell you from experience too, that the county's really good about keeping that mowed up to that corner going south. So there's some weeds there too that I think are beyond the right of way, but the right of way, for whatever reason, it seems to grow fast, but they're very good about keeping that mowed, cause that corner farther south is a,
Yeah,
It's-
but
there's-
the way this is on a little hill and you're looking down,
Yeah.
that's why I said you can see a
See, you
long
can.
ways to the south.
And this intersection is wide.
yes, it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Anyone else? Having heard none, I will ask for a motion with any conditions that you have, followed by the finding of facts. A motion on how you want to consider the rezoning of the Weldon Bontrager property.
I'll make a motion that we move ahead and clean this up and make it general business.
Second that.
I have a favorable recommendation to rezone the entire property to general business in a second. If there's no other discussion, I'll have the staff provide the finding of facts.
Zoning map amendment certification for Weldon Bontrager, rezoning number 591. Physical location is 132 South Jefferson Street in Cromwell. The current zoning district is ag and general business. The proposed district will be general business. The Noble County Plan Commission, having heard and conducted a public hearing for the petition as described above, and all the following factors, does now certify the amendment to the zoning map for Noble County. Your recommendation will be favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. The members of the Noble County will offer reasonable regards to the following findings. Number one, the Noble County Comprehensive Plan. If you are favorable, you're in agreement. If you're unfavorable, you're disagreeing to the general business, or you have no recommendation to the motion. Jeff Cunningham,
Agreed.
favorable.
Favorable.
Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Patty Gatman,
Favorable.
Randy Sexton,
I don't,
you're gonna, okay, Ann Klein,
Favorable.
Anita Hess,
Favorable.
Sarah Reagan,
Favorable.
and Mary Wysong.
Favorable.
Current conditions and the current character of all the structures and uses in each district. Anita Hess,
Favorable.
Ann Klein,
Favorable.
Patty Gatman,
Favorable.
Sarah Reagan,
Favorable.
Jeff Cunningham,
Favorable.
Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Mary Wysong.
Favorable.
The most desirable use for which the land in each district is being adapted. Patty Gatman,
Favorable.
Ann Klein,
Favorable.
Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Sarah Reagan,
Favorable.
Jeff Cunningham,
Favorable.
Anita Hess,
Favorable.
Mary Wysong.
Favorable.
The conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. Ann Klein,
Favorable.
Jeff Cunningham,
Favorable.
Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Patty Gatman,
Favorable.
Anita Hess,
Favorable.
Sarah Reagan,
Favorable.
Mary Wysong.
Favorable.
Responsible development and growth. Patty Gatman,
Favorable.
Ann Klein,
Favorable.
Anita Hess,
Favorable.
Mary Wysong,
Favorable.
Jeff Cunningham,
Favorable.
Sarah Reagan,
Favorable.
Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
based on the findings the board does approve. Or offer a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners, which that meeting will be held on maybe the 13th, we've got the wrong date on the agenda. Oh, wrong one, sorry, 127 at 10 a.m. in the commissioner's room.
Let's go on the calendar because I'm like, that can't be right.
Well, I looked at the first petition that was withdrawn,
Yes.
that was my fault. Okay, Randy, can you sign that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Moving back up to the top of new business, we will have a public hearing for 4 items this evening. We will take these one at a time. Those speaking in favor of it, each will be given 2 minutes, and then followed by those that are opposed to each one, given 2 minutes. And I will reread this for the record. The Noble County Legislative Body initiated a proposal on December 16th, 2024 for the initiation of a moratorium by a 2-to-1 vote for the Planning Commission to consider the following. Unified Development Ordinance, Article 3.04 and Article 9.10, a 1-year moratorium for Articles 3.04 and Article 9.10 regarding commercial solar overlay district. No applications will be accepted during that time frame.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I make a suggestion? We've been at this for over 4 years. Our meeting's moving right along. I wish to give these people more than 2 minutes to speak.
Does anyone have a recommendation?
Can I go to 3?
I say 5. If they can speak constructively for 5 minutes, let them.
Okay,
We've been
just
here
so
long
everybody knows, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that would be,
That's
That's an hour.
15.
that's an hour,
That's an hour.
that's an hour.
How many is there?
10.
10,
That's 50 minutes.
That's 50 minutes
you might as well
plus.
say an hour.
He originally had said 20 minutes per side, so you have to decide how that gets divided. They all want to speak, that's probably.
We could break that up into 20 minutes per side and have one side go first and then the other side, but if someone eats up the 20 minutes, which we've seen that happen, then someone else doesn't have an opportunity to speak.
But I
That's on
agree,
them.
I agree, 2 minutes isn't enough,
Okay,
but I'm not sure we need to go to 5, but
you wanna do 3, call it in the center?
I wanna be fair with the public
Call it
too.
4. I wanna get this done. We've been here, the meeting, it keeps coming back. If the commissioners, Anita needs to hear something, let's get her done.
Okay, You wanna call them up as, you ought to just call them on the roster whether they're covered for, right? If you just call them on the sign-in sheet, you wanna do it that way?
Okay. Does the staff have any report that we need to, does the staff have any report or anything we need to hear first?
On this, no. Well, I will say, I'm gonna apologize. We did not get the advertisement for the commissioners meeting advertised, so we're gonna have to do that. So we're gonna have to let you know when that is. We'll post it on our agenda once we have that up. We just didn't get it done, so we're gonna have to re-advertise that and get that on there. So that was our fault, but we'll get it taken care of. And so anybody that's here, if you follow our website, we'll have it on the front page of our website, and we'll actually put an agenda up so that you can see it on that page as well. There'll be 2 places on ours, and then the commissioners will also have it on theirs.
Okay, we're going to give each individual that's listed here, there's 10 of them, 4 minutes to speak. And then after that, the commission will close the public part and make a decision. Hopefully, not all 4 will have everybody, most of this all has solar, so I'm guessing the others will go relatively quick after that. But I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. Tara Rodebush is the first one. You come forward.
Can I ask, are we gonna do one topic at a time?
Yes, this
Okay.
is strictly
This topic,
this topic.
okay.
So only for this topic. Correct. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Trina Rodebush, and I am opposed to the moratorium. I'm here tonight to stand with residents of Noble County who believe in personal property rights and their ability to use their land as they see fit, whether they've chosen to be in a project, chosen not to be, or are unaffected by the project. I'm also here to stand with those that have worked for years to foster economic development opportunities in Noble County, to drive prosperity for everyone throughout the county. I am here also to commend you as a planning commission for the nearly 4 years of work that you have put into developing a fair and balanced ordinance that numerous counties across the state are paying attention to and have recognized as an ordinance that provides protections both for the landowners that are participating in the projects, the neighbors of the project, and those that want to do business in the community. The only question I have for you, and I ask you to contemplate, is what will this year afford you to do? What will happen during this moratorium other than deter valuable investment, tax revenue, income for your landowners and your residents? The commissioners, through asking for this moratorium, are taking away this very body's ability to apply an adopted ordinance that they have approved at your recommendation. I ask you tonight to allow, to decline this moratorium and to allow projects to come forward if a developer so chooses, for you to evaluate it on their merits against the current ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next one is Charlie Lemon.
Charlie Lemon, 4989 North, 290 West, Albion, Indiana, lifelong resident. I plead with you not to be in favor of the moratorium and send a resounding unfavorable recommendation back to the commissioners. Tom stated and Serena stated before me that we've been at this for a good share of 4 years and have had numerous public input at various meetings, both with the Plan Commission, with the commissioners. It has been well publicized in the paper, thanks to Mr. Getz. It has been on social media in many different forms. Why not? So my question is much the same, is what will a year moratorium gain us? For us, as landowners, what it will do is create further unknowns. Because because we're in limbo. It's hard to make decisions when you don't know what's going to be allowed and what is not going to be allowed. So I can't sensibly think of one good reason to enact a moratorium for any length of time. This has gone on long enough. It's a great ordinance. You've done good work, and I would ask that you send a resounding unfavorable recommendation to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is Gary Gatman.
Good evening. I am Gary Gatman, a resident here of Albion and small business owner here in the county. We've talked, as it's been pointed out, for 4 years about the economic potential impact, lowering taxes, investment in infrastructure, all the things that could come from this. But tonight I'm simply here to say the moratorium should not be approved and should not become part of the ordinance. When I was director of the EDC, B Noble, I went back through my calendar today. I attended 6 meetings and I missed 2. And since my 2 years after my departure, I have attended 4 meetings and missed 3. So by my count, we are somewhere in the neighborhood of 14, 15 conversations that we've had about this. And it just feels like we've had all the conversations that are meant to be had. And if I'm being real objective about it, the last 2 or 3 meetings we've had have been more of the same. It's just a repeat of the same things. Even myself, I'm talking about the economic impact again, because that's one of my favorite topics and one of the things I think is significant. So I agree. You guys did a heck of a job over 4 years putting together a UDO that protected the rights of, I believe, everyone. There were lots of compromises in that process. Both sides won some, both sides lost some. That's sort of the way I think this thing is supposed to work. And yet a good result at the end of the UDO process. I agree, I don't believe anything new will be learned from a moratorium. I'm a common sense advocate, and common sense tells me we've had conversations for 4 years, and it's time for government to get the job done. And so I'm here to advocate against the moratorium and to move forward with the UDO. And if there are projects to be, then we'll deal with them when they arise. So thank you for the opportunity to talk, and thank you for all of the work that many of you have put in. I've watched you labor and struggle with this for 4 years, and I truly appreciate your commitment to the process. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one is Kelly, and I do not really want to butcher the last name, so I will ask you to take it from there.
Hi, good evening. It's Kelly Pope. I'm here representing GNX on behalf of the the Southern Pike Solar Project. I wanted to give you a little bit of background of first where the location of this proposed solar project is. So in a square, we'll talk about coordinates. We are west of 300 East. We are east of 100 West. We're south of US Highway 6. And we're north and above 500 North. So this is in a specific location that we have approximately about 1,700 acres that we have under leased agreements for the Southern Pike project. I want to make sure the commission also understands why we are here, because the transmission line that runs through your county is so important for many reasons. That transmission line has the energy capacity to hold more capacity for a utility. And this will be taken up eventually because the transmission line is available for that capacity. So whether it's not this solar project, it might be something else as far as a nuclear project or a data center. These types of projects do not give you the same benefits and agreements that this solar project does, specifically talking about our decommissioning plans. that we have to restore the land into agricultural state once the project is completed. So I just wanted to make that clear as well. Once, concrete is down, you can't reuse this or repurpose this, and so we wanna make sure that we are being true to the land and true to our landowners to make this project as agreeable back into the land that it was purposed for to begin with. I also want to make a point that because we have so many landowners here, and I commend them for continuing to come to these meetings and to speak on behalf of this project. This is still America, and I believe that we still do have rights, private property rights for us to do with our land as we so choose. So I would just ask the commission to acknowledge and respect our landowners for their time, their commitment, and also their willingness to put their parcels and their land into this project for whatever reasons they might have. With that said, again, I oppose putting forward a moratorium, again, just from the length that this commission, as well as the commissioner's body has also went through in the last few years. But with that said, I would ask the commission to allow us to come forward with an application, so we can open up that conversation and that progress. This is not an end-all be-all, this is just the beginning. So if we can, have this open dialogue with you and move through the application with an open door policy, we would like just a seat at the table. So, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will state again that please provide your address along with your name so that our secretary can get that down, even though most of them are here. The next one is Rose Ricky. Oh, go ahead.
You can come in whatever order you want.
Okay, all
We're
right.
going down the order of.
We're just
We're
going
going
down
down the order of
side.
what's on here,
I just want to make sure.
Yep, you're good.
And you need my address,
please.
312 Laurelwood Lane, Hannibal, Indiana. Yes, I know you worked hard and long for 4 years. And it's gonna take what it takes. We need a 1-year moratorium, and I strongly hope that the moratorium goes through. There's still some tweaking that needs to be done on the UDO. Just mentioned the concrete that's gonna go in. We need to have topsoil protected. In Posey County, they have in their ordinance that there states that their topsoil has to stay within that land. It cannot be removed from that acreage. They also have a law, or in their UDO, that the battery storage is prohibited from being in their county. And I think that's important to add to our UDO. Things pop up like this that you read ordinances from other counties and you think, okay, yeah, I can see why that's important. Right now, we just keep hearing all of the utopian, rosy life that we're gonna have with solar in Noble County. And yet, who's telling us all these utopian, rosy ideas? The company that wants to come in and develop our farmland. During this moratorium, our commissioners have suggested town hall meetings, and I'm all for that. Yeah, the newspaper prints stuff, but when you look at the number of people in Noble County that read the newspaper, it's minimal. We need to have conversations person to person. And a lot of times in the newspaper, you only see one side. I just want to remind you that on this planning board, in the past, I've been coming to these meetings now for 15 months, and I personally heard mention when other people have come up with wanting to develop property, and I've heard you say, well, we must protect our farmland. And we should, and this is another case where we must protect our farmland. You've got these companies that wanna come in and put in the solar. They're one of the few energies besides wind and solar are the only energies that get subsidies. Other energy companies have to make it on their own. And if these companies want to come in and make it on their own, I might be a little bit more for that, but they don't. They're using government subsidies. That's my taxpayer money. And what happens when the subsidy dries up? Bankruptcy occurs. I just think we really need to get back to protecting our farmland. What does Noble County want to be known for? We're a rural community. We've got parks and we promote, being able to drive out in the country and look at the beautiful farmland. And that's not what's gonna be here when solar comes in and starts putting in the panels. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next is Mr. Mike Lemon.
I don't get called Mr. very much, thank you. I'm Mike Lemon. My address is 5485 North of 300 East, Kenneville, Indiana. I'm a resident of Noble County all my life. And I am here to ask you to vote no, extending a moratorium for this project. I want to first thank all of you for the work that you've done, as most of the others have. Most of you have been very responsible in the way you've approached this, very businesslike and logical in the way you come across your decisions and recommendations to the commissioners. And as a resident, I really appreciate that. A moratorium would only serve to cost us as landowners time and money. It already has. It's also going to cost the county money in revenues. And I would hope that you guys are getting tired of these meetings and hearing the same thing over and over again. I would hope that you would want to move on to things that are more impactful for the county in dealing with zoning and other UDO issues that come up to you every week. It's time to move off of this and get into those other things. I'm not sure what we're going to hear in the next few months or a year with another moratorium that's going to change anything. There are hundreds of these solar projects going up all over the United States, and they've been successful. And certainly we can learn what we need to from them if there are still any concerns. But there are hundreds of these projects. We're not the only ones. And I can't imagine what new things are going to come in that's going to make a difference and change anybody's mind on whether this can be a successful project. One of the things that was just mentioned was people are concerned about preserving farmland. I see houses and factories and warehouses going up everywhere, and it seems to be okay. But the minute we want to do something else with our farmland, we get criticized for that. And this is something that again, it's happening all over Indiana, it's happening all over the Midwest. We're not special here. One of the other things that was mentioned, that subsidies, this solar wouldn't have a lot of subsidies. Solar is the cheapest form of energy today. $7 trillion were spent on subsidies to the oil industry throughout the world in 2022. Most of that to oil. Most of that was in the United States and China. So solar and wind aren't the only energies that are getting subsidized. So there are hundreds of these projects happening. I would hope that you would continue in your good decision-making and send a no vote back to the commissioners for their next meeting. And I appreciate this time. Hopefully this is the last. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is Stephanie. And I'll let you. Stefan, I'm sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stefan Fergia. I'm the president and CEO of Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership, NEI. Not resident of this county, but in my official duties, I have to represent Noble County in conversation nationally and internationally when it comes to companies looking to make investments. I'll guarantee you right now, the number one priority when it comes to the decision location for investment is infrastructure and energy. The report was just issued at the end of last year by the North America Energy Reliability Corporation has listed MISO at the highest grade of risk for blackouts and brownouts. If you haven't read the report, please do. And PJM is an elevated risk. We are at the edge of a national crisis for energy, and it's just getting tougher. Companies, as they're gonna look to make investments, are gonna look at energy reliability, local grids, and don't make them cutting locations, based on their local situation. I was present the last meeting in December, and it was clear to me that the discussion was less about the ordinance and more about the politics around the ordinance. You have a good ordinance already. I commend you again, for the work of the last few years. It's time to move forward, not because there's a particular project in mind, but I would also, encourage you to realize that your existing business in Noble County need power. If power becomes scarcer and will have rolling brownouts, any companies in your jurisdictions that have equipment that runs on power will suffer. Some type of equipment will get damaged. Now you're gonna hear from your existing employer, having to write off losses on equipment that has been damaged, by those energy issues. And then we will start talking about existing job losses if those become persistent. I encourage you to be careful about this because and look at this particular ordinance and the opportunity to generate local power. Think of it as an insurance policy. Building a new transmission line across county lines takes decades. Hoping that small nuclear reactor will basically solve anyone's problem. It will happen, but it's not a silver bullet, and it will get built. It will be 20 years from now before we actually see those electrons coming to the transmission lines. Think about transmission lines as a water pipe. What matters is the infrastructure, but then the individual molecule of energy have a different price point. Right now, energy comes from solar sources is less than $1 per kilowatt. Energy that comes in, from a small nuclear reactor, you're looking at $6 to $7 per kilowatt. So even if that was available tomorrow, we would definitely see an impact to existing businesses because the cost of producing electricity goes up. So while it is, I recognize the difficulties around the sentiment around this political football at this point. I think the reasonable choice to consider is what's going to happen to existing business if we don't have sufficient power, and what is there going to be the missed opportunity for the residents of this county. Building a transmission line, again, it's a multi-decade process. If you have local generations, I will allow some flexibility to execute microgrid type of projects to secure your base and make Noble County, which is heavily dependent on manufacturing, more secure for your existing companies. Think of this as a future insurance policy on the ability to maintain what you have and have a chance to compete, for more investment from other potential companies may want to look at to invest in Indiana. Thank you.
Thank you. And next would be Olivia McGann.
Olivia McGann, 6628 North 290 West Wauwaka. I'm a resident of this county and my home is in the proposed layout of this solar project, as are many of the people who are for the moratorium, some of whose homes will be surrounded on 4 sides.
Where do you live, Olivia?
Wauwaka. Near Bill Emmert.
What's your address?
6628 North 290 West. I think it's interesting that so many have said they don't know what a year moratorium at this time would create for us. I think I will bring to the discussion the Republican elephant in the room, because I think we've all been told that the energy landscape in America is going to see some significant changes in the next year. I think in 6 months, all of us will know a lot more of what solar's future will look like. In fact, today, I was watching the confirmation hearing of Chris Wright, who President Trump has picked as the Secretary of Energy. Chris Wright has a lot to say about energy density in America, something which he claims solar is not. He says that terms like clean energy are very deceptive and destructively misunderstanding. And he argues that the government has gone too far in its attempts to green the economy by subsidizing renewables. They, the current administration, are deploying politically popular low energy density, intermittent, unreliable energy sources that have just destabilized our electricity, made energy more expensive, don't really have a prospect of being a meaningful solution in the future. Donald Trump himself said at a presidential debate, if Harris is elected, oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever seen a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert soil, which is significantly less than what's proposed for Noble County. GeneX is not the only company who will be looking for ground here. A moratorium is not just for GeneX. We have 4,700 acres that are available in Noble County for an application to come in for. A year moratorium is a great idea so that our commissioners will be able to know what the landscape for solar and for the energy future looks like under the Trump administration. I also think, it's my personal opinion, that if the information that the commissioners received that sparked this conversation for a moratorium didn't come from us, if this came from a state level, from statewide concern, I don't know who here has the ability to see into the future to say that a moratorium isn't worth having. I think if this is a concern at the statewide level, this is definitely something that the commissioners need to be taking time to understand before it goes around our homes and before it's something that we can't take back. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Next is Linda Gray.
I'm gonna yield my time to Bill or Lydia if they need it.
Okay, the last one we have is Donnie DeCastro. I'm gonna let you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Donnie DeCastro. My address is 15303 Bristol Cone Court in Fort Wayne. I would like to, I come here as a representative of an American company that wants to invest in Noble County socially, environmentally, and fiscally. I urge you to provide an unfavorable recommendation to a second solar moratorium in this county. In 2022, you enacted your first solar moratorium, and the result of that was what is widely heralded in my industry as the best solar ordinance in the state of Indiana. You did an excellent job. I want to impress upon you that when we present a solar application, it is the start of the process. It is not a final end-all, be-all, you take what we're giving you. It allows us to show you the project that we're proposing. You tell us the parts that you like, you tell us the parts that you don't like, and we work together to find a win-win situation. We are open to any and all accommodations that will make you comfortable with this project. But we cannot start that process until we submit an application. I've heard some research or some quotes of research here tonight. The research that we present to you comes from industry-leading experts who have studied their life in the fields that we chose them to contribute. This isn't research, this isn't hearsay, this isn't something that was seen on Facebook. This is the cold hard facts. In 2022, the USDA National Agricultural Statistical Service estimated there are 175,000 acres of farmland in Noble County. We are proposing a solar project of roughly 1,700 acres. That is less than 1% of the farmland in your county. Development is going to come to Noble County. That's progress. Whether it's data centers, industrial complexes, residential development. We will present to this county a project that will bring an estimated $60 million in tax revenue to the county over the life of the project. And when we are done, as declared in your ordinance, we will have a surety bond in place that will fund for the entire cleanup of the project. You will not get that deal from a residential developer. You will not get that deal from an industrial complex developer. There is an economic impact through the construction of the project of estimated $91 million through wages, equipment, and employment. And again, an estimated, these facts that I am quoting are from Impact Data Resource, an industry leader in the field in economic impact analysis from Austin, Texas. These are the numbers that they provided to us. We want to be a long-term corporate citizen of your community. We're here to work with you to get you the solar project that you want. Please give us that opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I believe that we have everybody that signed in on this list has an opportunity to speak. Is there anyone out there that was unaware or of this or that we missed that wishes to
You
speak?
didn't miss me, but I'd like to talk.
Okay. Please come
Okay.
forward. You'll have to come forward to the mic.
Okay, before I walked up there, I wanted to be sure it was okay.
Yep.
Tim Gaby, 6549 North, 100 East, Milwaukee, Indiana. And registered, wasn't gonna say this, but might as well, Republican, and I voted for Trump, just for anybody who wanted to know. And I know he's kind of solar, not solar, but I think he'll change his mind on some of that. A couple comments I wanna make is, if I read the 2020 census correctly, Noble County was basically stagnant. And all the other counties around us actually grew. If we're gonna grow Noble County, you're gonna have to do something. Now, I'd rather see it, I'm against the moratorium, of course. I'd rather see it be as part of a solar project where the farming community has a right to say, okay, yes, I wanna be in this program, or no, I don't wanna be in this program. And right now, that's how it is. They don't have to put their full farm in, they can put part of it in, like me, I'm only putting 50 acres in, just enough to help bring in a little bit more revenue, so I can keep farming a little longer, a little easier. That makes a big difference right there on how I operate my farm. You have steady income coming in, something like that. And like, let's say Albion starts growing, or Kendallville starts growing. Then you got the things, like it's called eminent domain, where the cities and stuff say, hey, we're gonna take your land, or, you know, they'll give you a fair market price, don't get me wrong. But they're gonna come in and say, hey, we're gonna take this because we need to expand and make the public better. You don't have a right, well, you can sort of fight it, but most of them fail. You don't really have too much of an option, you have to go with that plan. And granted, you'll get the money, a fair value market for it, but this way, I get to keep the land, and I rent it, and I get income coming off my land, if I wanna do it. I mean, and it's, like I said, it's your choice on how much you wanna put into it. That's all part of the preserving the farmland and things like that. And, I don't know, one of those things here where, you know, I've heard this quite a few times when I've been here at these meetings and stuff. People say, well, we'd like to go out and drive around the country and see how beautiful the cropland is, and see the cows, and see the woods, and all that. Well, that's all fine and dandy. Well, maybe, I know they do this out east, at least it's been talked about out east along the oceans and stuff. They got what they call a view tax. So maybe we ought to start taxing Noble County residents to drive through the country and see farmland, and okay, one penny per acre that I own. Something like that. I mean, they're benefiting from all that view, and I get nothing from it. And I know they do that out east on the coast and stuff, but that's just one of the things that come to my mind, that I don't want that to happen, but hey, this is getting, and we've been doing it for 4 years now. We need to act on it and move on. Either the county commissioners are gonna agree with the farmers that are wanting to do it, or we're gonna say, no, we're not gonna do it. The more we delay, the longer it's gonna be, some other company's gonna come in and do something, and you might not get the deal that these guys are giving you. You might, I don't know, but anyway, that's all I got, thanks for your time.
Tim?
Yep.
I got you more than your 2 minutes, correct?
Huh?
I got you more than your 2 minutes.
What? Yeah. Yeah, cause last time I didn't think it was long enough. Last time I talked to you, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that we missed? At this point in time, I will close the public hearing on this item and open it for discussion of the board members, followed by hopefully a motion for a recommendation to send it back with either a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. So I'll open it up to the discussion.
I might bring a few things to the board that I did not email you after the commissioners meeting. The liability insurance of the commissioners, we had sent back an unfavorable recommendation. The commissioners did approve it as was submitted. We're hoping that at some point, I think Anita and I talked about maybe trying to get better language in the UBO, but for right now, they wanted that in there. And also the 3-year review of that liability insurance instead of 5 years. So they did approve that to move forward. I just want to make sure that if you weren't available at the commissioners meeting, that did move forward on their behalf.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
I would like Kelly Cook to come back up, and for her, I think she was misunderstood. She started talking about concrete, and I think what she said about concrete was taken out of context.
Yes, sir. So with our proposed solar project, there is no concrete on the agricultural land. These the posts that are driven in are aluminum and steel. They go about 6 to 8 feet in the ground with no concrete at all surrounding them. The decommissioning bond and plan in preparation for those to be removed. You will just completely take the steel post right up out of the ground along with the racking system. The only concrete that will be used in our entire project is around the substation, which is any substation that connects to the energy grid that you would see on a coal plant, a nuclear plant, a wind plant, any kind of electricity plant that would hook onto the grid. They would have the substation. It's surrounded by usually a chain link fence with large inverters And that's the only concrete that would be used. The concrete would not be used
The
throughout the
concrete you
center.
was referring to was what concrete would be poured for, like a data collection center.
A data collection center, an industrial use, a nuclear plant, things of that nature that would require the concrete to be poured and that land to no longer be used or taken back into agricultural land.
Which I will remind the two new board members, a data collection center, to my latest figures, is going to use 404 gallons of water a day per acre. 1,700 acre data collection center, which is not unusual, would use 444,460 gallons of water a day.
And how many of them are going in the state center, those kind of projects?
Yes.
Thank you.
Someone had mentioned the removal of topsoil, is that
I-
part of your project or?
Can I?
Sure.
I want to, I'm done, Kelly. I'm gonna address Mike Lemon. Mike said something about the time that we spent on this. It's not necessarily the time we've spent on solar, it's the time we've not spent on other issues such as data collection centers and water usage. We should be spending our time on. This board has the solar ordinance under control. As far as Rose Ricky, Rose, you brought up Posey County. If you could come forward so you can hear me. Rose, you are correct, about Posey County. Posey County has a commissioner named Mark Sy. His number's in my Rolodex. I've known Mark for about 10 years. Mark and I have communicated back and forth on their solar ordinances compared to ours. In their solar ordinance, they don't have a technical review process to where it goes through that process to see what they're going to do. Ours does. At any time, in my opinion, if that technical review process, I'm not allowed to be on it because of a supposed conflict of interest. The minute they start moving topsoil, I will be the first one to deny their application. Mark Side and Noble County does not have that review process.
I'm glad you brought up, I'm just surprised you're even having any conversation during this solar. I was under the impression that you were not even to be in the room when solar is discussed.
If I believe that is concerning an application. Correct me ever if that is incorrect.
As far as making a recommendation on this, if he doesn't have a direct financial interest in what's being recommended, probably doesn't have a conflict. There's always a gray area in these types of things.
It's very gray, sir. It's very gray.
And I will tell you, Rose, that if you, the opposition, thinks I got a conflict of interest, I've already told you, I am the first person you want on the technical review committee. If they're doing something wrong, I will deny it.
Sir,
Thank
I
you.
have a tough time trusting
That's
you.
it.
Is there any other comments or questions that board members have? Thank you for your time. Having heard none, I would ask for a motion on this subject in order to move it forward to the Board of Commissioners as far as a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. That point in a second.
Can I ask if you make the recommendation that way, that you either make it as a favorable or an unfavorable, because we have your sheet ready to agree or disagree, it makes less confusing. No, it's, I wanted to make sure it was clear.
Okay. So in order to clarify it, I'm looking for a motion.
And the only thing we're required to do is to vote. We have to do. So there has to be a motion. There has to be a motion.
I got a question, I know you wrote the motion. Anita, what is the commissioners hoping to get out of the 12-month moratorium? Help me understand why you guys are wanting to go with another 12 months.
I think that the biggest reasons is because we're going into a new administration and we don't know what to expect there. The other thing is too, we haven't looked at the comprehensive plan since 2018. And one of the commissioners felt like maybe it was time to take the time to examine that to make sure that all the pieces fit together between the UDO and the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so my next question is, we have a quote later on tonight that says it's gonna take them possibly a minimum of 24 months before we even get into the comprehensive plan. So are we gonna ask the applicants to wait another 24 months till we get the comprehensive plan even dug into? Is that being fair to them? When we have one now that's already in pretty good writing, in my opinion. Yes, the county has changed a lot since 18 or 15, I'm not sure what it was. If we wanna go by the comprehensive plan, I believe we have built more houses than what it says we're supposed to build. If we wanna go down that road, are we gonna stop building permits from here on out because we're over the number of houses that are allowed to be built because we wanna save farmland? I mean, do we wanna go down that way, or do we wanna not let an industry come in because we're using up too much land in other places? I'm just trying to figure out where you three are coming from. We send something to you guys, you send it back to us. We send it to you guys, you send it back. Just help give me some guidance here.
I think that it's gonna be hard for me to sit here and speak for two other commissioner meetings, or two other commissioners in regards to their collective thoughts of us together. I already just told you that was the reasons why we felt like we needed to look at that, but to expound on it any further, I don't think it would be fair for me to speak for two other people.
Okay,
I'm one of three.
I understand that, you're just the one sitting in the hot seat.
Correct,
I apologize for.
That's okay. No,
And I will help, cause I was in the last meeting where Anita had talked about wanting to, maybe give the administration a time period. The other conversation that came up was maybe looking at the comprehensive plan, but with that being said, if we get lucky to get a comprehensive plan done in a year, that doesn't mean that our ordinance is effective right away. Then we come to the table after that, so it would take a little longer. But the one thing that it could potentially do is give some stats from those town hall meetings.
What are the town hall meetings gonna do that all of these meetings we've had haven't already? What is the difference between all of our public hearings versus town hall?
That's valid. Our goal is to get into the other areas of the county and physically get into people's neighborhoods. We don't have a lot of Amish participation in our meetings. Our goal is to get into I'm starting a list. We got a good group that we're starting to try to work with and maybe meet with them on occasion, and he was on that committee with me. We need to get information into their hands. It's not as easy to do. I don't know if many of them are getting the newspaper or how they're getting their information. Word of mouth is probably most common for them. The goal would be to get in around the county within, and I would require board members to help me get into those pockets. I'd ask you to come and help me get into your neighborhood. We would, based upon either one of the companies that we'll get into later on tonight, they'll kind of help us guide some of the questions from a strategic planning committee. What kind of questions are we wanting to ask at these town hall meetings? I think solar's probably gonna have to be one of those questions.
So Teresa, do you feel like our advertising for this board is not efficient enough?
I think in general, this is probably the best attendance any plan commission in the state has probably had in the last 2 years. And I've applauded people for coming, and we need to continue that, because I will tell you, you have made board members more accountable for their decisions based on you being in the room. So it helps all of us. We all have a voice, it's all of our community, and I don't know how to change that. We put it on our website, we have it in the newspaper, well, we don't print our agendas in the newspaper unless it's illegal or something that has to be published. But I don't know how to get it out in everybody's hands that's not looking for that information. We've talked with Gabe. There is a new system that's coming through where you can link in to certain things that you wanna be involved in. And if we put an agenda out there, it would send you an alert.
So Game Creek, just for the public who doesn't know who we're talking about, it has to do with the alerts that we get with weather and so forth, and there's a new system, and so with that, if we could tie some of this in here, then at least we feel like we've gotten to the masses better than maybe some of this doesn't get to because they don't take the newspaper and they're not on social media.
But they're on their phone?
But they're on their phones.
Yeah. We're trying.
I guess I just don't understand why this hasn't been important before solar. Why haven't we worried about reaching out to people about other topics and doing town meetings about other topics? Why is?
In general, the comprehensive review will be beyond just solar. That will be one of the topics.
Yeah, I think we're talking about two different things.
Yeah.
Okay. So the town meetings have nothing to do with solar?
I'm assuming that will be one of the topics that will be presented.
But one of many, right?
Yes.
And as,
because that's how we build that comprehensive plan.
and as we've stated before, we tried to see if we could even get it on a ballot because we thought, well, let Noble County vote. But we couldn't because it's not a school referendum. The state does not allow us to do that. So, I made a phone call down to Diego Morales' office and talked to someone and then got a phone call back and because it's not a school referendum, hands are tied. So that's a state problem. That, you know, it would be great to be able to get communications out that way too.
When I first started, if there was a dog kennel on the agenda, we had an audience. After a while, only the landowner showed up, no one else.
Yeah.
Confined feeding barns were the same way, don't see them as much anymore. So I guess, I don't know how that's changed for people. Why at one point dog kennels were important for people to show up to the public hearings and now they're not.
I think it's just where people get used to, this is the way it's going to be, this is what's happening, and so they just kind of.
Yeah, wash your hands.
Amen, the ordinance, you know, the things that we do.
I'd like to make a couple of comments, and that is, this board works independently of the Board of Commissioners. I'm sure they had a reason for making the decisions that they did. I will commend Anita, she has been sitting over here writing a lot this evening. So I'm sure that information, whatever it is that she's written down, she will take back and discuss with her two counterparts in the Board of Commissioners. But on top of that, I believe that the Planning Commission needs to make a decision independent. The best recommendation that the 8 people or the 7 people, because unless there's a tie vote, I believe Robert's Rules of Order that I don't vote on any of the matters. I'm here to run an orderly meeting as best as possible. But I believe that we as a cooperative group, and we've done very well in the past, need to wrap our heads around this and make a decision, favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation, and send that to the commissioner so that they can weigh both what they have done in the past, what Anita has written this evening that she may share with her counterparts, and our decision this evening that will go forward on that. We're not here to bless their past decisions or counter their past decision, or I'm gonna say past decisions, I apologize for that.
I knew you meant past.
But I just would like to see the group come together and make a decision of what you feel will be beneficial for the citizens of Noble County, and then we'll put that forth to the commissioners so that they can weigh and make their final decision. I hope I tried to make things clear without rambling too much, so
Um,
if there's further discussion.
I'll ask for the
Yeah.
motion to either be favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation.
Correct.
So members will agree or disagree with that motion.
We're currently setting it in the center of Albion, our county seat. Albion, there's a business south of town, True Love's, that's going out of business. Albion used to have 2 grocery stores. They're losing their last one. Restaurant south of town hasn't been reopened yet. There's rumor that one of the dollar stores is going to go out of business. This is in our county seat. You can go to Kendallville. Other than burned out buildings, parts of Kendallville looks like Detroit with the vacant home fronts in it. And we're sitting here discussing whether we want to put a moratorium on a business ready to move into Noble County. I don't think putting a 1-year moratorium on it will do anything more but fuel disinformation, delay it until we start working on a comprehensive plan. One of the commissioners refuses to read the UDO.
Not me.
If the commissioners want a favorable motion for a year's moratorium, I will do that. But I wanna put it on everything, land splits, rezones, home-based businesses, variances, the whole shoot match. I'm not afraid to shut Noble County down over this, Anita. You can tell you're the commissioner that. Having said that, I make a motion to make an unfavorable recommendation for a moratorium for a year.
Okay, and I may have handled this not quite correct. What's actually going to happen is at this point in time, Teresa is going to poll everybody as favorable, unfavorable, or no.
Agree or disagree to an unfavorable recommendation.
Okay, so there'll be
But I need a second.
I need a second on that.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to provide the commissioners with an unfavorable recommendation to this. Would you take roll call?
For a 1-year moratorium on commercial solar with no applications being accepted during this time frame. Noble County Plan Commission, having heard the application for the UDO text amendment described and all testimonies of parties claiming to be adversely affected by the proposed development or development amendments, does now enter the following findings as required by the Unified Development Ordinance, Article 9.19 in Indiana Code. In consideration, proposals to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance, the members shall pay reasonable regard to number 1, the Noble County Comprehensive Plan. Patty Gatman, you agree or disagree to the motion?
I agree.
Jeff Cunningham,
Agree.
Anita Hess. Disagree. Ann Klein,
Agree, and I'd like to just say, for the sake of the commissioners, I think the biggest reason that I disagree is because we will have this technical review process in place, where we're gonna look at things a whole lot deeper. And the people for and against will again have the opportunity to put their input towards what's happening.
Tom Griffiths.
Agree.
Sarah Reagan.
Agreed. I'm new to this process, so I do wanna say something. I think we need to realize too that by not having a moratorium, we're not saying yes to any particular company, yes to any particular application. We're just saying, okay, let's move forward from this ordinance. So I think in that respect, I agree.
Mary Weishaupt.
Agree.
The current conditions and the character of the current structures and uses in each district. Anita Hess.
Is this a double negative?
Why do we gotta do this?
Why are we doing that?
Oh, just one, sorry, I changed the forms.
So this will be sent to the commissioners for an unfavorable recommendation.
We'll pass a sign-in sheet for that.
While we're doing that, we're going to move, in order to keep the meeting moving along, we're gonna move to the second item. This is Article 9.18 C2. Restrictions, minor subdivision process may be used up to 2 times, allowing no more than 3 tracts, which includes the remainder of the parent parcel. Approval of this amendment would be effective on existing parent parcels that have not used the primary subdivision process in the past.
So,
The staff would provide information.
let's get into that. So, the last 2 ordinances, and this on the right is a copy of the 2013 UDO, which we've been living with forever and a day. The prior ordinance was the same way. Anytime you did a minor subdivision, you could not do it again on that parent parcel. That was somehow unforeseen by staff, and we all looked at that ordinance to approve it. Somehow, it just didn't make it into this new ordinance.
Folks, we still have a meeting going on here,
Please.
please.
Move to the other end of the hall.
Folks,
So what we're asking, in order to make it a little bit easier for some of the property owners, but I wanna make it very clear that because the prior ordinance had already affected them not using it a second time, what I'm asking is maybe consider, I know it's hard, okay, hopefully, I'll just talk really loud, I'm acting like you're my kids. So right now, the ordinance allows you to do a minor subdivision 1 time. It's 2 lots and the remainder. If the remainder's under 10 acres, it's 3, that's total, you can't do any more. So if it incorporates the entire parcel, you can do it into 3 lots. What I'm asking is to consider having that end result, but allowing the surveyors and the property owners to attack that twice on an existing parent parcel. They're not gonna be able to retrofit back, because the prior ordinance, when that minor subdivision was already approved in the last one, it stated that. So the adjacent property owners were aware of that at that time. Moving forward, if you approve this from here out, what we call a parent parcel, it's not had the effect of a minor subdivision before, it's fresh, it's not been touched yet in that aspect. So we have a local surveyor in the office. I would like for Ryan to come up and let us know if you're at least minimally in favor of.
I know at least one person would like to comment on this, Mr. Weber.
It's a stepping stone to get us a little closer to a review process on the subdivision side.
My name's Ryan Weber with Lakewood Surveying. Teresa and I have had this discussion in the past. One of the injustices that the way the current UDO is being enforced is remainders of tracts of land. Parties that have 40 acres, 120 acres, 160 acres, those of, multi-generation families, excuse me, how can they divide up their land the best way possible? We have an administrative subdivision process, we have a minor subdivision process, we also have a major subdivision process. One of the constricting factors is some of the verbiage that is in the UDO, and how we interpret those. Teresa and I don't always see eye to eye on how that verbiage is interpreted, but we always work through it, and we always try and get my client, or the citizen of this county to a best case solution. I think instead of having it limited up to 2 times, I think my major concern is getting away from a major subdivision process. And what I want to enlighten upon that, not trying to confuse the board of anything, is when it comes to land, there's, in a surveyor's eyes, there's 2 ways to do it. There's sequential conveyances, there's simultaneous conveyances. The subdivision process, or what surveyors interpret as the subdivision process, was meant for simultaneous conveyances of land. Okay, everything else prior to that was done by deeds. So when you transfer a deed, it's a sequential conveyance. If you want to transfer 5 deeds, there's an order that those are recorded, and those are sequentially conveyed down. Those have junior and senior rights. The subdivision process, or as surveyors know as the subdivision process, was meant to convey multiple tracts of land simultaneously, so that you can do that over a larger area with smaller tracts for development. okay? The UDO has transformed that major subdivision process or simultaneous conveyances of land into a minor subdivision process. 1 lot minors, 2 lot minors, 3 lot minors. Either way, from a surveyor's perspective, it's still a simultaneous conveyance of land. The question that remains up to this board and the UDO and the process moving forward is what do we do with the remainder of that? Prior to this UDO, Noble County had allowed 2 splits of land before there was a subdivision process. You had a counter then. So if you had something, and I can't remember what that date was, it was 1979 or 1976 or what it was moving forward, you were allowed 2 split offs of any kind. So you could, at one point in time, you could cut off an acre, sell an acre, and make a septic buildable tract of land. You could do 15 acres. That was still one of your sell-offs. After that, it was a major subdivision process. And the criteria that was implemented into the major subdivision process for Noble County then had made it almost non-existent to be able to afford to do a major subdivision anywhere in the county. So you were tied. You had ran out of splits. The UDO came in and in 2013 reset the county. Whatever that did for the land rights of everything else, didn't matter. You reset the county. Everybody has 2 more splits now, or they have a minor subdivision process, major subdivision process, administrative subdivision process. I think there's verbiage already in the UDO taking care of what the intent of that was. Even though I think there's still allowed a couple of splits. There's the minor subdivision process, the major, and the administrative. The administrative in there, I think it says over 20 acres, you're allowed, is it 10?
10.
Okay, the original one had 20. It got modified to 10. There is simple subdivision, standard subdivision, which I'm still, me as a surveyor still struggles with that terminology.
Minor and major.
Yeah, minor and major. I believe there is a clause in there that preserves the parent tract of land that allows any subdivision to process over 20 acres afterwards. This is where Teresa and I have disagreed throughout time. I think she is trying to clear up that disagreement by setting a 2 minor split. That's more than what's happening now. I'm in favor of that. I have mixed emotions about where I lean on government regulation versus landowners' rights, from a personal standpoint. We all want to do what we want to do with our land, but at the same point in time, we all want stagnation to happen and nothing change, right? So there's the common hypocrisy across Noble County. It's a tough balance for us all. Do we want local farmers to stay here? Absolutely. Is that going to happen with more regulations on how they can split up land? I don't think it's going to happen. You have to allow the options of the farmers in the area, the landowners in the area, whether that be residential, commercial, or agricultural, have options as the market changes. Therefore, I am against the government regulation on that standpoint. At the same point in time, do I want a major subdivision to happen in my backyard? No, that's why I bought out in the country. I have one neighbor, Mr. Metzger, I love him.
So my question to you is, right now, you can only do a minor subdivision 1 time, and a lot of times we're coming in with 1 lot, because the landowner's not ready to do that second lot. Would it be helpful if we adjust that to where you can do that second lot at another time? That's what we're looking at today.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think there's terminology in there that allows you to do more than 1 split, which we've had that conversation multiple times.
Well, I think it's when it says you cannot, any parcel or remnant parcel that was created using a minor subdivision process at any time in the past, you can't do that.
And I think there's one in there that says preserving a parent tract that says anything that's over 20 acres as a remainder stays as a parent parcel and you can utilize any subdivision process in the UDO. So there's conflicting information in there.
I just wish we knew somebody that understood.
Understood what?
So what's on the table tonight and what we're looking at is, in the past, we've only allowed a 1 lot minor subdivision at a time. I'm asking to consider doing the maximum number of splits, which right now is 2, potentially 3 if you incorporate the entire parcel, to be able to do that in 1 step or a second step, 5 years, 10 years down the road.
Any additional splits would definitely help out the remaining tracts of land, especially the larger tracts of acre.
It allows them to do what they can currently do now, they can just do it in a two-step program. That was the goal of that, and hopefully the way we have it worded makes sense that way.
I guess
But-
Teresa, I'm so naive, I don't quite understand the whole thing. But if it's a 200-acre parcel, you can still only split it 3 times?
You can,
Can
what
I
she is proposing
get
is,
into that? You can do 10-acre splits as many as you want to one time. You can do.
One time, but if you
One
wanna
time.
say, right.
So if you have a 2-acre parcel and you wanna put 20 10-acre lots out there, you can, but it has to come in at once.
At once.
And the minor subdivision process is the same way. After that, one of those 10-acre parcels, if they're all part of that larger tract, can be split one time by using the minor subdivision,
So
because
the
it's
rest of
on
the-
the parent parcel that all of this happens.
Slow down, if John doesn't wanna split it in 10-acre tracts, what is his options?
He has plenty of options. He can do large 10-acre splits administratively. He can adjust property lines all he wants to administratively, as long as you don't lessen one more than 20%.
No, not if he doesn't want to do the 10 acres.
And the other option is a 2-lot minor, one time right now, and that's been that way since the last ordinance and before.
Only one time, I couldn't go in 5 years later, cut another one out.
Correct.
And see, that's
That
part
would
of
be
the
the major
problem.
subdivision, which is what we're hitting.
What we've seen is that, for instance, parents will have 2 different obviously 2 different kids. One child wants to come back right away and they're undecided on whether the other child wants to come back. If they don't do both of those splits at the same time,
The next
it's
one.
not possible down the road
Or
when the
they have to
second
do a
one
major.
decides in 10 years, they want to come home. Whereas this would allow that second time to go through.
What was the theory behind
so-
that, keep you from going in and cutting out and cutting and
Yes,
cutting and
yes,
cutting and
yes,
cutting and
yes.
cutting? So how do you defend?
Try to reflect what the comprehensive plan was saying to preserve farm ground, was I think the idea behind this.
And to get away from Swan Township, where they're packed in on top of each other, we have conversations from those property owners on a regular basis. Because it was overdeveloped, they've got people sitting behind each other, looking in each other's backyards and bedrooms, you know, the way that that was overdeveloped there. So whether it's 100% right, we're never gonna get 100% right in any ordinance, period. Our goal is to do the best job we can. Right now, this is what we need to look at, because this is something we can attack pretty quickly and easily to allow at least a little bit of relief. When we get through the comprehensive plan, we'll look at the subdivision in a whole different light and have that entire conversation at that time.
So I'm leaning on you, Ryan, Randy, and Teresa, to just.
I think it's fair, but I think we need to make sure
sense.
it's very clear that anybody that's already had a minor, they can't still get that second one in. Because at that time, when it was approved, it was not allowed to go again, because that's what we have to do, we have to look back at ordinances and see how something was approved. Home-based businesses that were approved 2 years ago, we still are following that home-based business standard that person got their ILP under. The new ones have to follow underneath the new regulations, so we're having to manage that. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa, after we go through the comprehensive plan and then we go through and completely redo the UDO to reflect that
We'll decide what
comprehensive-
needs to be changed,
It
yeah,
may change all of this.
could be,
And it may
or it may pull it
resolve
back.
that issue of a previous minor plat cannot be
I don't know.
added on. You
That
don't know.
would be a legal
That-
question for Everett,
Yeah, I mean, basically it resets when you do the work.
there you go.
And everybody else would be negatively affected is grandfathered in.
Another problem.
So you can zone the whole county residential, but everybody has a farm is still a farmer because they would be grandfathered in. Problem would be if they decide to do something different in the future.
So
We did
this
have
would
that come
allow
up
more
in the
flexibility for those wanting to divide their land between now and the time that we get to the UDO at a later date, which is hopefully 2-3 years down the road.
But that came up in a plan commission meeting where a gentleman had a one lot over, I think it was Swan Township, might have gone. Josh had something in that area, I can't remember the landowner's name, I can remember the parcel, what it looks like. And the landowner came and he said, I was told when I moved here that this minor subdivision next door was not allowed to have one in the past, that's why we bought that property. The UDO reset, and he pointed that out, And I remember, I think we were all kind of shocked that that conversation came up. That under that ordinance, it stated it couldn't happen again in the past. So if we're resetting with a new ordinance, that negates what happened in the old ordinance?
Doesn't negate it, it's frozen. You know, so that, you know, whatever it was before, but whatever the new one says is the way it's done from that point on. I mean, this actually goes back to the importance of the comprehensive plan, which is we have comprehensive plan that has conflicting goals, which is not unusual. But we, essentially, the original, the UDO, in my mind, was written so that residential lots would be a major subdivision with streets and lights and all that. But because we wanna let granddaddy's place, or granddaddy gives away land, we essentially abandoned that idea. And it's not a question of one's right or one's wrong, but you have to understand those are the decisions you're making when you pass ordinances or comprehensive plan standards regarding that, because you can't have both. I mean, I'd go back at least 2 ordinances before this one. And the major concern in the 2 comprehensive plans ago was that splits along roads using the county roads essentially as the roads for the subdivision. And that chops up your land all along the edges of the roads. You can see it. We've had to lower speed limits on the roads because the density of housing that's along county roads where there's actually not really something you call a subdivision. And it's just a question of what you want to do. You know, it's not that one's right or one's wrong. I mean, I have some friends out in Maryland, he was living on an 8-acre lot. Why? Because 8-acre lots weren't covered by a subdivision ordinance, so the county was just full of 8-acre lots. He'd rather spend $10,000 for a lawn tractor than be in a developed subdivision. Now, if nobody wants to be in a developed subdivision, then we shouldn't be encouraging it. You know, so I'm not saying that might be my preference, but nonetheless, it is really what the county wants. But if you go with larger lots, you're going to get chopping up that farmland that everybody says they want to save. And that's the balance that everybody's doing. So I don't know if I answered your question, I tend to over-answer when I'm finally allowed to talk, because I don't vote, but you know, that's what the importance is. And that's why the job is hard. Because our job is actually creating land use compatibility. You know, even though economic development and that stuff's in the background, it's really, you get to develop your land the way you want to develop it until it hurts somebody else next to you. And we decide where the hurt is and what we do to control that. I don't think we've developed a thing where we think all the neighbors get together and get to vote how you get to use your house. That's not what the law is. The law is to say if your house somehow hurts your neighbors, then that gets to be regulated. So we don't tell you you can't have a residential home. Now I know I'm drifting past my original point.
Thank you for that information, Everett. At this point in time, thank you, Ryan, for the valuable information you provided. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak to this subject? Okay, Randy, yes. Come on up, please.
I do this advisedly because so Gregor Shield, 2320 East 600 North. Just a quick comment, because I remember when to raise the ugly head of solar here again. When we first started discussing this, so many years ago, I thought Tom made a good comment. I think it was in reference to something I said about, I was worried about the smallholder, the person with 2 or 3 acres, and that they might be surrounded by this. And Tom, this is not a quote, but you said something to the extent that, well, because we've already split the county up so much and had all these little places out there, that was going to cause increasing conflict between homeowners in the country, which is what you just mentioned. You like being out there, John's property, because it's big and you don't have to worry about anybody coming in next to you. Aren't we sort of doing the same thing here, talking about, well, we'd like to split up our land and get more value for it, but you're gonna have a lot of, potentially, just that many more small properties in the county. And won't that lead to increasing conflict? Now, I was trying to listen to a little bit of what, of Everett's, comedy shtick over there, so he was, and I didn't catch all of that. And I know these things, these land use things are very difficult, but I just go back to what Tom said before, and I know that you want to let a person do what they want to do to a certain extent with their land. But this seems like we are coming into a conflict. I don't know what the resolution is, but I do remember what Tom said so many years ago, it seems like, you know, I just wanted to bring that up as an additional conflicting value, and I thank the chair.
Thank you. Charlie, I think you're what's left. Do you have any comment?
Thanks, Greg, I don't get that up.
Somebody
Now, if I had a vote, I would come forward as well.
That was before.
Sorry, I'm fresh out.
Listen,
And what I do have, probably
you got
can't
listen
repeat.
to it.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get that on a t-shirt.
Greg likes me.
So he likes your quote.
Or just Tom says ...
Okay, at this point in time, we have discussion amongst the board members, and we need to have a motion on this subject as favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to move it forward to the commissioners to alter the UDO.
So we're gonna put back in that remnant, that's, there we go up. They are allowed, that the restriction on the minor subdivision process may be used up to 2 times, allowing for no more than 3 tax tracts total, which includes the remainder of the parent parcel. Where before, if you did a minor once and you only did 1 lot, you were done.
I am going to make that motion exactly how you said that, Teresa.
Top line.
Okay, we would make a motion that's allowed to 2 times line for no more than 3 tracts, which include the remainder of the parent parcel.
Now,
Now, and the only reason I'm doing this is I am remembering what Greg just said. We are going to review this again. This is no more than a Band-Aid to alleviate the situation that's going on now. If there are truly people in the county that's worried about that, this will be handled under the new comprehensive plan.
Having heard the motion, do I have a second?
second.
It's been moved and seconded. We have a roll call.
For a favorable recommendation, your concept is going to be on the Noble County Comprehensive Plan, the current conditions and the character of the structures in use in each district, the desirable use for the land in each district, conservation of property values, and responsible growth and development. Tom Griffiths.
Agree.
Ann Klein.
Agree, and I'm gonna echo what Tom said about Greg's comment. I'm going to agree, but we need to look at this,
We
and we
do.
need to look at it.
We just haven't
A
been
lot.
able to. Jeff Cunningham.
I disagree. I don't wanna make it easier for them. Not even if it is a short time, because how many of these are we gonna have in a short time?
That's probable. Patty Gatman. Not here. Anita Hess.
I'm gonna say no recommendation, because I'm speaking for others.
You're gonna abstain?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. Sarah Reagan?
I only understood like 10% of the words that were used.
You gonna abstain?
I do, but I don't at the same time.
We can have Ryan
go through that. I guess my thought is, if there's already a process for somebody to go ahead and split another chunk off, why are we making this more complicated than it needs to be? Now, is it cost prohibitive to do it the other way? Does it
It's more expensive.
take more time?
More time.
Okay, then I guess I agree.
Mary Wysong?
After all that, I guess I agree. Like Sarah.
We got a 5-1 and 1 abstain, so that would pass.
And I can give you guys some history on that too. A long time ago, I was on steering committee for the comprehensive plan at that time, and I truly wanted to save farm ground from housing. So I got the 10-acre rule. I take credit for getting the 10-acre rule instated, but it backfired on me. And so what they started doing was leaving 10 acres. Instead of giving somebody a house out in the country with 2 acres, they put it on 10 acres, which worked totally opposite of what I wanted to do.
Moving on to the next item would be Article 9.19B2C. Adjusting lot lines, 2 owners may adjust a lot line separating their 2 parcels if survey errors were discovered or if both owners desire a modification, as long as it does not result in any new or escalation of a nonconformity and does not reduce either lot area by more than 20%.
So
If staff would give a
since I've been in this position, since I've been in this office, every director above me has changed that or to an and. They've interpreted it that it's a typo. It reads better as an and, it doesn't read well as an or. I think we decided that last meeting. So the options here is 2 lot owners may adjust their property if they wanna, if there were surveyor errors. The other option they have under this category is if they both desire a modification as long as it does not result in an escalation of nonconformance. But either way, they can't reduce their property by more than 20%.
Okay, so my question for you is I've got 100 acres and John's got 100 acres and John wants to buy 80 of my acres. That is going to be more than 20% and that's not allowed.
Could be a 10-acre split. We look at it under a large split. You can do that.
What?
There's different sections in there. If you have your ordinance with you, pull it open.
There you go.
So you,
I know it's puffy.
so you're saying there was a surveyor's mistake that could move 10 acres one way or the other?
No, he asked a different question.
Ask a different question.
So what Tom is asking, if you have a large parcel, how do you subdivide it using an admin? There's different ways that you can subdivide it doing an admin. You can, number 1, merge common ownership lots.
Where are you reading this at?
9.19, page 9-74. 47, we have an extra here. Merging common ownership so they can merge their common lots together as fewer buildable lots when the resulting lots do not create any escalation in nonconformance, when there's no change to public service, roads, or utilities. B, splitting a lot and merging it into 2 or more owners adjacent to a vacant lot. So this is gonna be more relevant to 2 people, maybe in a lake residential where there's a vacant lot between them and they wanna have a larger side yard. That's where that one, this one that we're talking about is C, adjusting lot lines.
Where at? I still can't find it.
9.19B2C, 9-47,
What page?
9-47.
Bottom right.
Newbies can help.
So right now, what we're talking about tonight is C, but we're gonna jump past C and go to D, subdividing into large lots. A lot may be split resulting in any number of lots if all resulting lots are at least 10 acres in area. So what you just asked me, Tom, can happen in an administrative subdivision. That cannot happen again. The adjusting of lot lines, 2 owners may adjust a lot line separating their properties if survey errors were discovered or if both owners desired a modification as long as it does not result in any new or escalation in nonconformance and does not reduce either lot by more than 20%. So what we do when we get these applications, we have to figure out which one of these processes actually fit. We had a 7-page application that came in this week and worked it out to where we could figure out how to do a couple applications within that 7 pages to get those admins all to process using one of these processes so that it worked for that property owner. Some of it was adjusting lot lines, some of it was actually modifying, some of it was actually taking larger lots out. So the fun stuff of what we get to do though, in this particular side, we have felt all along that that and should not be an or. And that's what I'm asking you tonight.
Do you mean the opposite, the or should not be?
The or should not be there.
The or should be.
The and is new, yeah, yes. If you read that on your own, it doesn't make sense without it being in there. Correct?
Sorry, I was gonna share, but I've had a defective clip, binder.
We need to find a better binders.
Yeah,
He can still sell his 80
this one, mine's been
acres
sent
and
to
have
me,
his
trying
20
to open
left
it up
over
and fall open.
to him.
On a 10 split, yeah.
We're
Have a
not
bigger
just
split,
changing
I can have it.
But it's a good.
Or if he wants to take that 80 acres and cut out 8 10-acre tracts, he can do that, it just has to come in once, because if you go farther down.
So if I sell John 70 acres,
You
I
know,
can't split it up.
Actually, just
what we need to do is maybe have pre-meetings, if you guys have questions about certain things, and let's work on those things at that time, rather than me constantly. We really need to get through whether or not you think this is appropriate.
The and.
Yes.
I thought all we were talking about is taking or out and putting the and in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I move that we strike or and put and in.
Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to strike or and put and in. Would you call the roll?
Yes, again, these are based on the comprehensive plan, the character of the structures in each district, the most desirable use, the conservation of property values, and responsible growth and development. Jeff Cunningham.
Agreed.
Patty Gatman.
Agreed.
Ann Klein.
Agreed.
Anita Hess.
I feel confident agreeing on that.
Thank you. Glenn's not here. Tom Griffiths.
Agreed.
Sarah Reagan.
Agreed.
Mary Wysong.
Agreed.
Based on that, the board does approve.
Okay, the last one is land use matrix update to comply with the most recent Unified Development Ordinance revisions on October 15th of last year. Would you
Yeah, the
provide-
Apex came back to us, we knew it wasn't quite accurate. We noticed that maybe the commissioners are gonna throw us into a public hearing, that's why these items came to light this time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that to you ladies this early. But we wanna clean up that matrix at the back of your ordinance. Those are the areas that we've discovered. There's, a permitted use as a P, an S as a special exception. It's a chart, it's a cheat sheet, Jeff, if you go to your very last page in your ordinance.
Yes, I tried to follow through that the other morning and it wasn't
Yeah, it wasn't jiving.
right.
So if you have your land use matrix there, it's a table. If you look at each amusement park, I'm on 8-4, amusement park is a special exception in C3, and it's a permitted use in HI. So this is a cheat sheet for someone that potentially might have a project, they could kind of go through and say, oh, well, I'm doing that and I need this zoning district. So it was incorrect, we didn't have some of the things listed in there correctly, we now have the corrections for hometown effects.
So Teresa, we need to mark ours out and give us.
We're gonna get you a new one once hometown gets through.
Okay.
I have a motion to make that change in the land use matrix.
Awesome.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, would you call the roll?
Again, based on the comprehensive plan, the current conditions and character of the structures and uses in each district, the most desirable use for the land in each district, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction, and responsible growth and development. You will agree or disagree to the motion. Ann Klein?
Agree.
Anita Hess?
Agree.
Sarah Reagan?
Agree.
Tom Griffiths?
Agreed.
Mary Wysong?
Agree.
Jeff Cunningham?
Agreed.
Patty Gatman? Board does approve.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next item, it's the annual attorney contract review. We also have this evening the comprehensive plan discussion, and it is almost 9 o'clock, so
Do you wanna move the contract to next meeting?
I think it might be wise in order to have a discussion of the comprehensive plan, discussion, if that's okay with you, Evan. Okay,
Randy,
yes,
just one real quick thing.
Sure.
Before we move on to the comprehensive plan, I made another mistake.
Okay.
I
You never do that.
I wanna fix this one, it's only a couple, maybe a month old. It has to do with our small businesses and the 600 foot. It's been cold out, so I've been working in my garage. And my garage is 32 by 24, I think, 768 feet. It is not big enough for a small home-based business. If you were thinking of a small welding shop, just pulling a trailer in, anything like that. I do go to small businesses within Noble County, small engine shops, whatever. I try to do everything in Noble County. And I ask them how big their shops are. And none of them are bigger or less than 600 foot. They're all about 600 foot even. And they tell me, we can't fit within you guys' new ordinance. So when we put that new ordinance in, we was doing it with the intentions of small businesses not growing to a point to where we can't manage them anymore. And we are very successful at doing that, because with the 600 foot, there won't be any coming in.
Well, I think the goal was, and I've talked with some of the gentlemen that Anita and I have been working with, is to get that younger generation to think about where they wanna buy and build, and they appreciated that.
And looking at maybe centralizing where they live and
So even if we put a little bit of a pause on it temporarily, I don't anticipate that staying that way once we go through the comprehensive plan. We had no hold on that at all. We have some that have buildings that are large enough to be commercial.
Right, I see these coming to the BZA more and more often than what we're going to anticipate. As long as we're going to, and I think everything we did in that home-based business ordinance was fine, except for the 600.
And I agree, I thought it was a little small, but fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if that's something that's gonna be worked out,
Well, we'll have to at some point.
okay.
I was surprised we went that small, to be honest with you.
Does that need to be looked at before the next?
Let's discuss it.
I think it really does, because
We
we're
can
looking.
discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay.
But there's a big difference between somebody that has a t-shirt printer in their garage that's printing t-shirts a couple hours a week versus somebody that's got how many guys in their garage welding and
that was
pulling
the
it.
I'm talking about a small home-based business, somebody like me who can do mechanic work, well, whatever. You can't get a trailer of any size in there to work.
But my opinion, if you're welding on somebody's trailer, that's not a home-based business. I'm sorry, but I don't believe if you have a welding shop and you're doing commercial business out of it, that shouldn't be a home-based business.
The other thing too is we should not be amending the UDO every month.
Right.
We need to your staff needs to get on top of the comprehensive plan and some of the other stuff that we're trying to get done.
Well, part of it was employee number too, I mean, you know, you
But
didn't
yeah,
want
there was
to-
nothing wrong with the employee numbers.
I know, but just, no, it was about
It was 5 employees.
Because the next thing you know, you got somebody that's living on a lake lot that's welding on somebody's trailer, and that isn't no place for that. I think that's why we were wanting to go smaller, so somebody that lived on a lake or on a 2-acre lot isn't doing a lot of stuff. I mean, that's my agreement.
And if you wanna look at it next month,
I'm
but
gonna say,
I honestly, I honestly
agree
would
that
like the fact
maybe
that
we need to tweak
need
it, but
to
not
just,
all the way through everything.
but do we need to be looking at the ordinance every single month and amending it?
No.
Cause we've been doing that for 2 years.
Well, a lot of it is, we'll get into that here in a second.
So it's obviously, we all have things about the ordinance we wanna change, and I get that. But we've gotta get to the comprehensive plan so that we know what needs to change based upon what the entire county wants to see. And I think that's what my goal is with the comprehensive review. I've talked to 2 companies. I've sent you the paperwork. I've got every bit of it on the screen if anybody can read, or if you want a copy of it, let me know. A comprehensive plan is not cheap. I'm seeing comprehensive plans that are done no less than 100,000. 160 I think was the cheapest that I've seen. There's 150 to 200,000 based upon what we need. I did ask for an a la carte. We could decide on what things we wanna do on our own. Are there things that we can task without having them do some of that? The last plan was done through help of a college. I think our comprehensive plan has no direction in it, and I think it's weak. I think your prior comprehensive plan had a lot more meat to it. You used it a lot with the surveying. It had a lot more direction and a lot more hold. The preservation of farm ground alone has been used against us in a meeting where we've all thought of it as one factor, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh wow. So I think we need to decide if you're comfortable, and I think I have a warm fuzzy from the commissioners that they're willing to come to talking to us and hopefully council, because we're gonna need money. The Economic Development Corporation seemed to think that maybe they could do some things with us or help us with some things. I guess what I'm asking from you tonight is to allow me the freedom to start finding funding, and if you are comfortable with the 2 that we've looked at, or if you want more companies to come in, I could probably get you 1 or 2 more quotes. Now, that does push things off. Hometown, I talked to them in December, they weren't willing to start until, I think, June. And at this point, they may now be more like September. Companies like this are busy, so that pushes the timeline out for commissioners even farther.
What kind of dynamic are they asking for in regards to the funds? Do they expect a portion up front, or
Oh, that's
is
a
it
good question. I
quarterly
would say a portion of it would come up, and that's what we did with Hometown the last time. I think we paid half up and then finished it.
If you look on the back of this hometown, they've got it broken in
Oh, did they? I
kind of
missed-
increments.
Here you go.
I don't know if they're gonna stick to that.
That's what I kind of wondered too, because they've done some stuff for us.
Yes, right there.
That's the a la carte approach. Those are the things we can pick and choose whether we wanna do that.
I mean, that's obviously not adding up to your 120,000.
Well, there's the phased approach though, and like phase 1 is 22,000, so I'm guessing like.
Right, there's certain things we're gonna be paying for, and then certain things we can pick up, yeah. So one of the things I did get from Hometown is if they're going to go with us to these hometown meetings, they're gonna charge us. So my goal is to just have them help set up the strategic ideas of what we wanna ask and what we wanna do. And then once I'm close to your neighborhood, I'm gonna ask a couple board members in that area, you're gonna help me get this set up. You're gonna figure out how to get me into some place, and you're gonna help present and be available. And, you know, we get into Green Township, we're gonna make him find us a place, and we'll get you to make sure that that's known in your community and help drive that in there. My goal is to get into the Amish community. We're working really hard at starting to build some relationships there so we can get in.
We felt really good about this. I mean, not in the very beginning, in the first.
Oh, the first 2 seconds of it.
And after that.
And actually, the 600 square feet came from that meeting, by the way. It came from them.
It came from them.
If I'd have known that I couldn't build
Honestly,
any
I was
more
shocked.
than 600
Also.
square feet, I would have never done what I did here. I would have found a better location to do what I'm doing. That's exactly what he said, or close enough. So the concept is there, they're open-minded, they understand, and I will tell you, I've talked with some planners in LaGrange. They were kind of forced into having to react. They both told me, you have an opportunity to properly develop and allow everybody to be compliant and happy together and work and live well together. That's what our goal is in this meeting, in this committee.
What committee is this?
It's a small one that Anita and I kind of, with the EDC designed, and we just have a handful of Amishmen that we're bringing to the table, and we're finding out what they want,
Had a
and
conversation with them and met with them, and
they're open to helping us get communication out. Yeah, it's awesome. And like like Anita said, at first it went south. And then they turned it around and said they're trying not to get us congested. They're trying to make sure we don't overdevelop. They're trying to make sure we can develop properly. Once that concept was there with them, we're not against them coming in. We want it done the right way. You say that all the time in DZA.
He's forgotten.
No, you quoted.
Another famous quote.
2 times.
I will back up what Teresa said, being a part of the last comprehensive plan, we need a professional that handles this. There's another firm that I know of that we may want to look to also.
I'd be happy.
But we need to have a professional, not necessarily do a lot of the work for us,
We can figure
but
out.
put it together so that we have a quality.
We need some guidance. None of us know what we're doing.
It is not an easy task to do a successful comprehensive plan, and yet is vitally important to the making of UDO and the basis for many, as you've seen, many conversations that we have wind up right back to the comprehensive plan. And that is so important.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a 2 or 3 month process. One of these, I believe, even said in there, having the meetings later in the fall, after harvest, next year. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to come to the table and speak their piece and to be a part of it. That's what will make a quality comprehensive plan.
Did they give you references? Who they worked with?
Well, Hometown is who did our UDO, so we went with them immediately and we had a good relationship with them. HWC, actually, I was
Wait a minute, I thought that the UDO was half the time we spent going back over because they didn't get the right changes in. And then you guys would have to go back and, okay, what did we say 2 months ago?
That was the original one that was made back in 2012 and approved that you're thinking of.
Well, I backed John up.
the
It
last
seemed
one
like
I thought-
Hometown put some of their own verbiage in and a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff that we were like, we didn't vote on that.
Had to go
We
back,
have
we had to go back and do it.
Well, I
right.
think it was the way they interpreted our language.
I mean, they may not have read what they passed, but they did vote on it. And then after they looked at it, and again, you get these things where people have a reaction after everything's been done.
Right.
And then everything had to be changed, like on confined feeding
Yeah.
and geothermal and all that stuff had to be redone, not because Hometown did it wrong, but because nobody read what they passed.
And we read this. We
Okay,
read
Everett's got his version, I got mine.
Yeah, I just felt, and obviously you feel very good of Hometown. I just thought we spent a lot of time voting on spelling errors, verbiage errors, that we paid somebody a lot of money they could have done a little better job on.
So maybe you look at HWC a little bit.
I'm just throwing that out there. I
Well-
mean, we sat here almost one whole meeting one night doing corrections that Hometown didn't do when it got sent to them.
Okay,
That's my whole thing.
so how about if I look at another company, Randy, you had another suggestion?
Okay,
So
um,
I guess what I'm asking is, I'll try to reach out to 2 more companies, that'll give us 4 to look at. Does that seem fair?
Yep.
And then, I have to start looking for money.
I do believe we need to start looking at funding options.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's my goal, is to kind of get in front of council and the commissioners. If a board member wants to sit with me in one of those meetings, that's always helpful. There you go.
do you have a total of what HWC, theirs is kind of,
Well, they also
it
gave the
breaks it
a
down
la
and
carte plan, so we can pick and choose what we want. HWC actually was willing to come to our last meeting in December, and I told her I don't think we're actually gonna do anything, but just kind of let them know we're talking about it. So she is more than willing to sit with you at a meeting, if we wanna have a meeting with them on the agenda. How full is the agenda next month?
We just got 2 rezonings and a major that will be on the agenda at the very least.
They're fair though, they're not complicated. So we could probably have some discussions with some of these companies and somewhat interview.
So,
okay, cause this,
so on HWC, they really, they put Cromwell.
Yeah, I caught that today.
Crum.
Yeah.
So Teresa, because these companies are willing to do a la carte, couldn't we look local for some of our very skilled professional people we have here to do some of that work that we don't have to pay a lot of money for, and work with them on a la carte things that we need that we can't get locally?
And that's a possibility, but again, we're gonna wanna make sure that number one, what we can do on the side, they can also take and run with as well. Some companies don't want that. We worked with InDesign only on that UDO. Some companies refuse to work with InDesign. So we gotta figure out whatever we're doing can be transferred over to them to implement.
I was bugged the fact that, well, besides the word crown misspelled, the HWC wasn't, it doesn't have an address.
This is their book, if anybody wants to look through this. They left this with me.
I could type this up.
Jennifer Barclay that you guys hired.
I feel better now.
Yeah, Jennifer Barclay that you hired a while ago, this is where she's working now. She connected me with a regional liaison here that we can work with.
Well, I'm still trying to find it.
Well, they're all over, but she's here,
Okay.
no, you've got a representative in Canada, I believe. Region 3A, I think we're working with them as well. I can reach out to other planners. Kosciuszko just did an entire county comprehensive plan, and they won awards for this comprehensive plan.
Who did theirs?
That's a good question, we need to ask them who did it, but they did the entire county, which would be awesome if we could do that. They did put a plug in here for Cromwell adding 13.
Excuse me, Cromwell.
I did not know. That they could throw in 13,000 and they would do a comprehensive plan for them. So they could use an updated comprehensive plan. I don't know if Ligonier needs a new one. Kenneville, I think, just did one. Rome City's willing to jump on the bandwagon. I talked to Lee, depends on how expensive. I would think Albion and Avila. Avila's working on their ordinance, so they may not need one. He did Ligonier?
That's how long ago that was. It's the regular
It's
ordinance.
time.
Quite a while back.
I'm still not impressed. There is no address for the company, no contact us, phone number, no,
I have a business card.
no name. It's just, like she said, fluff, is what I quoted. Some projects they worked on, but, contact us at, I don't know.
That's a good question.
Well, I might agree with John, like, can any of them get references, or can we see any of their work?
Yeah, we can do that. We can.
I'd like to see
Just to see what kind of work they've done.
2 more companies, references, projects that they've done.
Is
Okay.
the business card that maybe came with that on the floor by his foot? It's been It's been there the whole meeting and I was waiting for the right opportunity to say, there's a business card by your foot.
So do you want us to give you a motion to let you start looking for funding?
Does it need to be a motion? I guess maybe.
I don't believe it's.
I mean, if the commissioners are wanting this done, I think that gives you the green light.
I just wanted your permission. You guys are my supervising bosses.
Not really.
Yes, you are. You are my hiring and firing board, sorry to say.
I think we need to have that dialogue started at this point with both the commissioners and most importantly, council.
So by
Since
next
they're the
Monday, my
finance-
goal will be to have more projects for you to look at, references, and 2 more companies, and hopefully at least a way of getting funding, or at least an avenue that we're starting. So we'll try to get on
Will you
council
get on that
sometime.
calendar for the, February?
We'll try to have it on there for February.
I don't know if these companies will do this, but, legal work, if I make a mistake and I have to redo something, I eat the cost. But if my client must change, then the client eats the cost.
Then we
So
need to
you
make
could
sure
have
that's
a
in the
provision in your contract saying, if it has to be rewritten in parts because you can't reference one section to another correctly, that's their problem. Now, whether they actually sign a contract like that, keep that in mind, there's a limited number of people who do this type of thing. But, that may address your issue.
Okay. You've given me direction. Thank you.
Moving on to reports for member staff.
If we
We're good.
actually table this to the next one.
Thought we did.
What?
Did we actually
Yes.
vote to table this?
What are you showing?
It's Everett's contract.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do that next week.
the table.
Yeah, it's 9:30. Your address report here, no change, I'm assuming that was a tear down and rebuild, Sarah? Yes. Cody Kraus's address was issued as an E911 address, he is actually building a home there, this is the winery. So he's moving that address to a residential use, not a 911 only. By the way, if you look at your year-end report, we did, you can look at it when you leave, 80-some houses last year, 80-some new residential addresses last year, 35 more than we did the year before. So we're building, Noble County is building.
That was a question I was gonna ask when we're doing this, so unless there were no change, then we're all new address, or all new houses, or?
Two are new. One is a new build.
Okay, so when it
probably
says
tear
new
back and Cody Kraus was issued a 911 address because he didn't have a primary dwelling there.
okay,
He now has a residential going up. So we'll need those approved.
what's the average house that's being built in Noble County, cost of it? I remember the guy, not to stretch out the reason, just, it
Yeah,
seems to me that,
I can get those figures, I don't have them.
you don't have to, it just seems like we're building expensive houses. No, you're right. I'm used to being stepped on by my wife, go ahead.
I will move to approve the addresses as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the addresses. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
For Sarah and Mary, these addresses will tomorrow morning go out to 911, the postal service, and any other adjacent to us, any other entity that really needs to have that address, they'll have that in their system right away. Plat Committee Administrative Subdivision Report, we have had 11 subdivisions, 6 of them pending, and they all came in, I think, in the last 2 days. It's been hairy. 4 minor subdivisions, 4 are still pending, those came in this week, I believe, and 1 major subdivision pending that came in today. So those will happen this month. Your zoning violation report, this is Mars on Knapp Lake. We have had this under a junk, trash and debris, we've moved it to a zoning violation. He technically is running a home-based business.
Oh, boy.
He's trimming, he's
Sorry.
he's got,
See what it is.
he's cutting wood
He's under
and
600
selling
feet.
wood.
Yeah, I know.
What'd you say?
He's under 600 foot, cause his garage isn't 600 foot.
It's a one car,
Well, yes.
1.5.
Well, there's a lot of outside storage there, there's, however you wanna call it, it's a mess, the neighbors are complaining. We're not gonna let this one sit any longer. We're gonna hit him as hard as we can, he'll start getting fines here soon. He is accumulating fines on a daily basis of $150 to $500 a day now with the zoning violation.
Has anybody checked the size of the wood pile since the temperatures has been 0 for the last 4 days?
That was
Okay,
2 weeks ago.
this, not the last time I was there, the time before, we had so much there that this truck to load that on was in the road. I mean, the neighbors are tired of it, it's on both sides of the road, when he's burning stuff late at night, they're getting ash all over their vehicles.
See, that, how close to the lake is it?
He's
It's right
got
on.
waterfront.
I think
Yeah, that is, you can see it.
I think I did, man.
And that was my whole
Interested in that.
conversation with him, was I told him, I said, you've got waterfront property, anybody would kill for this, and you've gotta protect the quality of the water, and what you've got sitting out here is not helping the quality of that
It's
water.
burning.
Burning the ash.
So what's your chance of collecting the violation, the fees?
I don't care, I just wanted to clean it up.
But if you're not gonna get, if you can't get anything out of them, so what you gonna?
So this is the next thing that Ever and I, I'm hoping, are working on. Judge Hagan and I had a conversation, he has an ordinance court, but Everett has to draw this stuff up. I used to do this for Noble County when I worked for Noble County Disposal, I did all of her small claims. I'm willing to be the one to go in, if that saves the county money from having Everett to go, I can go and plead the court on our ordinance.
Do they garnish wages or?
I think typically Hagan seems to get a good result. He may not always give us the fines that we want, but you have any comments on that?
Minorities, but it's just only fun, that's all we do. There's some technical things. Staff can handle lots of things, if you actually have to have a hearing, the staff can't do it. It has to be an attorney.
He did say you had to file the paperwork.
Yeah, well, you could draw it up and I could sign it, and that will save us, save you money.
You might have to give him the first one.
I mean, they do stuff like that with Canada for dog ordinances and things like that.
Kendall said they've had good success with it. And they must have their attorney doing it?
Well, they did, I know, getting the attorney to actually show up was always a problem.
Oh.
You know, if it actually got set for a hearing, the attorneys, they don't want to come to court for dog running a large case, central Kendallville. You know, it's, but that's what they get paid for. But they have a tendency to try to push it off as much as they can. Since I'm here all the time anyway, that's not a big deal.
And the last one I'm gonna show you tonight is Colleen. Colleen's not understanding that there's a little bit of a problem here. She has cleaned it up from the first time. She lives in the Lake residential zoning. She has a fairly large parcel for that zoning district, but she has a lot of poultry, chickens, roosters, ducks. They're her pets. I mean, she has a heart.
She's not selling eggs.
She has raised these animals, so she's very tied to them. We got her to the point where we thought she was going to apply for a variance to see if she could keep them. She did not finish the paperwork, she just sent us some stuff, so we ended up sending it back to her, we gotta follow through. So we've given her another 10 days to see what kind of response we'll get from her. I'm sympathetic, but you drive through there and you can hear the roosters crowing, and they are not a permitted use in that zoning district at all. So
You're worried about getting chased down while you're there, a rooster?
I have been chased by a rooster, isn't that fun? So if there's any other members report, my only last thing was I wanted to welcome all of our new members. Thank you for taking it one for the team and giving us your commitment of time.
Believe it or not, there's no hazing.
I think this was the.
You got
it.
Oh, no, the hazing's ahead.
Oh.
Well, speaking from my aspect, yeah, there is hazing.
I would ask for a commissioner's report followed by a report from the council.
We're moving forward, getting closer and closer on the punch list for the courthouse. And we hope to have a grand open / ribbon cutting April 4th is the plan. So it's looking really, really wonderful. And we'll finally be ADA compliant. And electrical issues have been resolved, and plumbing issues, and things that were surprises along the way have been repaired. So those that were negative about doing it in the first place, it's being done right, and it should last a long time.
So does that mean we will no longer meet in the hallway? It's a lot of work that
It takes 2 hours. I have seen the staff coming down and all sorts of things, so I know it's getting closer, we're excited.
You might get a kick out of this. I don't think I mentioned this before, but if you haven't seen the movie Carol, that was done, a lot of the photography here that was filmed locally here in Humboldt County. The movie starts out in the drone, there's a drone camera, or a drone, they come in and they're focusing on the courthouse, and then they back up, and the scaffolding and the equipment's there, and it's actually in the movie.
Oh, really?
So the movie's called Carol?
It's called Carol.
I have to look for it.
Yeah, the Carol, yeah.
So they
There's a lot of local people that were in that
appropriated
movie.
the commercial image of that building without giving.
Oh, wait a minute, shouldn't we have gotten some financial?
Well, El Mariachi's in the movie almost quite a bit, cause they do some dancing in the court, or in the
Oh, really?
right there on the street, on that corner, and El Mariachi signs in the background the whole time, I'm like, good for them. 110, yeah,
Good.
advertisement, so.
Good for Alvin.
Barry, do you have an update from the council?
Let's see, our first meeting, Doug Harper's our new president, so, not much right now, I guess. I mean, same as with Anita, the court will be glad when the courthouse is done. Just status quo, I guess, right now. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, you're first.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, Anita is here as a representative of the commissioners, Mary's here as a representative of the council. And I was just thinking about, in the last few meetings, Anita, you've more often been saying, yeah, I'm gonna not vote because I don't know what the other two kind of say almost. Are they they're still themselves, they're still voting for themselves. You are not representing the whole commissioner group when you vote, and I think we have to be careful because Mary's not gonna know how many people are on the council, 7. She's not gonna understand 7 people's viewpoints and be able to vote for them. You're voting for you.
No, that's right.
And so-
You picked to have a broad spectrum of representation on the board and to facilitate communication.
Communication, that's exactly what you're
And
right.
we certainly had ample
and vice versa.
description of that. Because you do have cross communications, regarding the body, but no, nobody is a representative of anybody, whoever is the extension agent is not a
Right, I don't
representative.
The one I abstained on is because we haven't discussed it.
But still, you get to make your
Yeah.
own decision.
I mean, as far as extension
So I
office goes,
feel
you don't
responsibility.
care
And it's okay to not.
what the people in Purdue think about it.
Right.
You do it based on
Your decision
In
in a
fact, if you look at the statute, it says you're supposed to pick people who have a certain expertise in this type of area. And
I just wanted to make sure you guys were comfortable voting for yourself and you didn't feel like you had to represent everyone else in that crowd. Does that make sense? I just wanted to.
And I wanna go one step further, this is forever. Randy gave up his right tonight as our president. We have not done that in the past because I felt there was a state statute that you run under that allowed the president to run. Cause Leatherman is the president of the county council, or the commissioners, correct? He gets to vote.
he asked.
Yes, there's only 3.
I know, but why does that kick Randy out when we run under the
Well, I'm not
same?
sure it does, I mean,
Yeah, our
Randy votes if there's no
while you were having your meeting, I did a
He
little
breaks the
research
tie.
about Robert's rules.
But George voted every time.
But like in a lot of times,
Did she not call him Randy?
Robert rules aren't clear. There are 2 ways that can be addressed. One is, we don't have to follow Robert's rules, we can have our own rules of procedure and decide how we're gonna do it. Robert's rules say, if you're on a small, this is all research I just recently did. If you're on a small committee, the chairman of the committee can vote. If you got like 100 people, it wasn't entirely clear though, because it says the chairman also has to maintain a position of impartiality.
Right.
And that's where you run into an issue. So that's, and before.
And I would say that mostly like tonight, this was by choice, because that's the way I believe Robert's rules, when I've been in it in the past.
We went in the
If
past,
the
I
planning
remember.
commission's desire is different,
Yeah,
I will
I've had
vote
this
by
happen on boards before, where the chairman basically says, I won't vote.
Do they vote only if there's a
I
tie?
believe my position is to
To vote if there's
run
a
an
tie.
orderly,
I think the
not
statute,
to steer what's happening.
I think the statute compels you to vote, but to be on the safe side, I wanna research it more than the half hour I spent on the phone here, researching Robert's
So
rules,
let's
because
put that
Robert,
under unfinished
because
business for
Robert
next
rules
meeting,
puts it down the
before we
middle.
do any voting.
You have to run an impartial meeting, but that doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion.
Your county council, they have a president, correct?
Right, and
They
the
get
president always votes.
always votes, right? So I wondered if.
But as far as expressing his opinion, for example, George would usually reserve any comments towards the end.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think is how a chairman of a body
I
would
agree.
normally behave,
I think we could also
but he
come up,
always voted.
we could also come up against the quorum issue where we might need him to vote
That's
if some
right.
people had to be gone.
And that's what makes me concerned, because
So
the
we gotta be
body's so
careful.
small.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Robert's rules have an exception for small bodies. But I have to do more work on
I will defer it to Everett into the planning commission.
But the simplest way to do it is, we have rules of procedure to say we adopt Robert's rules. We can say we adopt Robert's rules, except
But if Robert's rules,
everybody can vote and everybody can talk. Boom, now we're done.
if Robert's rules are so confusing, and we don't know that we're following them
Well, if you read your planning guide advises against adopting Robert's
Well,
rule.
that's why I want it out of our rules,
Because-
it's in there and I want
Because
it out.
they're so incredibly complex.
So I'm bringing the rules back next
Like,
meeting.
like you being halfway through a meeting and somebody say, I don't wanna postpone the vote, I have to go to the bathroom. That takes precedence over everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
And under Robert's rule, you know, point of personal privilege, I think is what they call it. And so some bodies, because if you have a really split body, they will tie you up on Robert's rule.
Yes.
And so some bodies, if you read the Citizens Planning Guide, it kind of advises against using Robert's
Yes.
rules. But everybody around here, and everybody that I represent, they've been using Robert's rules.
So since we're into amending, maybe we'll look at our rules next week.
Yeah, but we can change those anytime.
There is one other member report, I'll put somebody on the spot that I think would be nice, but if they don't want to, and that is Ann is our extension agent. And so if Ann would give us any information from that standpoint, I always find the extension to be a very enlightening situation.
Yeah, there were actually two things I wanted to share with you. So the farm show is this week and I've been there each day and I'll be there again tomorrow. And today, there was some really interesting stuff. So I went to a talk and it was entitled Hot Topics in Land Use. And it all revolved around water, okay? We have to start thinking about water use and how we want to regulate that. And so that's really the biggest thing that I wanted to bring to this group is that we really we need to get past solar. So we, just like Tom kind of mentioned, we have some other things we really do need to look at.
And we can't be
Man,
allowed
you're
to
just
anything
sucking it
on
up.
I brought a few things and I have some notes, so if you'd like, I will try to, when I get back in the office next week, I'll try to summarize just the top, real big level points.
Yeah, that'd be
But it was fascinating, we heard from an attorney, and she talked about a couple of very specific cases and different things, and it's just, it's coming and we need to at least start understanding it, even if we're not creating things and ordinances yet. We need to start as a body listening and just understanding what the issues are around water.
What we learned at that one that Sarah and I went to is we have one base point, we need a few more. So we need to get some other, what do we call it? Measuring, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, water depth, is that what you're talking?
Yeah.
There's a monitor out there somewhere in Noble County, I'm not quite sure where it's
Well
at.
monitored.
Well, thank you. And they suggested we get a few more. So maybe that's something that we need to put on the commissioner's agenda and figure out maybe where it needs to go. So that we can start monitoring what we have and protecting what we have.
I don't remember how many you were on the board 10 years ago. I know Anita probably was, Randy was. No, you wasn't.
No, I was, just 2018.
So unfortunately, there was only about 2 or 3 of you. My views on geothermal
Yep.
I was constantly berated about my views on geothermal.
You and Mike Tolles had fun with that one.
Gosh, I missed out on that.
I might say I'm winning now. It's taken me 10 years.
Do we need to get a hold of Mike Tolles?
Yeah.
The other thing they said, that they said was, and then they related it back to a lot of things, but moratoriums, they talked about moratoriums and overlays.
So what did they say about
And
this?
she wanted to make it clear, she made it very
Who
specific.
was it?
It was Farm Bureau, the ag, what's her name,
Tina, Paul, last name Paul,
Schaefer.
oh, Schaefer.
She's been on some of the Farm Bureau stuff
Yep,
before, she's excellent, but one of the things she said about moratoriums and overlay districts, those are zoning. They are zoning, and so you have to follow all of the rules, as far as, putting the meetings out in the public, all of those sort of things, you have to follow all of those, and I believe we are, but I just wanted to.
And we had a mistake
Bring
tonight by
that up
not
and
getting
remind
the commissioner stuff on the agenda. That was our fault, so we'll re-advertise that, and I
But just
apologize.
to make that clear, you have to follow all those rules for those things, they are zoning. Everett, sounds like you agree.
Fortunately, the county attorney and the zoning attorney agree that that's the procedure should be. So we've been doing that.
We just had a hiccup this time.
And did they tell you how many projects are coming into the state demanding water, like Amazon, Google, data centers? I've read as much as 7 or 8 of them.
That's what they said today. They said
Immense water for cooling.
Plus they wanna ship it to Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
And if
In Ohio, it's just
and abandoned gas lines to do it. I mean, this is not,
We've been
this is not a common issue.
I have one thing to ask. I know it's gonna be a lot of work, but is there a way we can move next year's January meeting so it's not on Wednesday? So those of us that do have to work could actually go to the farm show in the evening hours?
If you wanna tell me when that farm show is in January next year, we'll make sure the agenda's modified.
Same night as this every time,
It's the third Wednesday
third Wednesday.
every year.
Okay,
The farm show is Tuesday, Wednesday,
can do that.
Thursday, goes till 5 on Tuesday,
I'm sure.
8 on Wednesday, and 4, I believe, tomorrow.
So like the meeting, things that should be interested in could possibly be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, so maybe a Monday meeting?
or no, we'll just move it to the
following week or-
following Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll just bump it back a week.
It doesn't matter, but I just know there's a lot of these meetings going on all day long,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a lot of meetings.
Well, we do that for the fair,
Yes.
so I don't have a problem with that. We set those agendas out a year, well, not a year, we send them to everybody by December. So we'll put that on the October agenda to make sure, November agenda to,
I'm sure that's where Glenn is tonight.
he did let me know he couldn't come.
I think you had something, Tom?
Yes. The United Soybean Board just elected me to represent all U.S. soybean farmers on the United States Meat Export Federation.
Congratulations.
He's got
Get
two things going on, a
attaboy.
t-shirt.
I got one other comment for Anita. Maybe I'm way offline, but if there was a company that was gonna come in and buy 200-300 acres, 400 acres, and say they were gonna employ several hundred people, and they were gonna dump 60 million in tax revenue over the lifetime, or they were gonna invest $98 million to build this thing, would we be doing this to them? I'm just asking you to share that with the other two. Would we keep pushing them off, or would we open the door and roll the red carpet out for them? And I do drive by the site on the north side of Ligonier, where Forest River was coming to Noah County, and they were gonna bring several hundred new jobs. The money all dried up, there's a big hole in the ground, and now the weeds are growing. So we didn't delay them for years. I just wanted to pass that on, something that's bothering me. We got a company that's wanting to come and invest a lot of money, and it seems like we just keep kicking them down the road and kicking them down the road, so if you would pass that on, I would appreciate that.
Okay, is there anything else? Next meeting is on February 19th, I believe. Third Wednesday.
That's right, yeah.
I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Still moved, everybody have a safe trip home, and I will try to. expedite things better the next time.
Me too.
One down.
Yeah, you did. No, you didn't. And I felt